2015 Cam.
Man.
That's right. That's me
boy.
dabbing. That's what that was.
No, we saw that.
In the same segment as your third James Cook reference.
We got it.
That looked more like you did the Colin Kaepernick thing he used to do when he
Or it
scored.
looked like you were sneezing in your elbow. It's actually
Like,
It's very similar.
It's cooler when Kaepernick did it.
It is
Just
definitely cooler.
Slightly better.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, listen, I'm an old man. And my dabbing skills aren't what they used to be.
Fantasy Football Pregame with Matthew Berry, served by Applebee's.
Couldn't think of a better way to kick off Fantasy Football Pregame than to see that, quote, dab attempt from our man, Matthew Berry. Clearly hasn't been in the end zone too often, if
Look
that's
like
what
Cam Newton out there.
Yeah,
that's what you're breaking out.
Present day.
Yes,
Cam
exactly.
Newton, present day.
For the Toronto Argonauts.
I don't know. That
Yeah.
still might be a stretch too. Now I don't know.
Wow.
Let's not get carried away here now.
For our
guys are a bunch of
AARP
haters.
crowd, they can all really
Wow.
relate to that half
haters.
move there. Lawrence.
You pulled the muscle there. Yeah.
Lawrence Jackson at Lord Don't Lose. Jake Croucher. I'm George Savaricas with Matthew Berry. Guys, in the midst of playoff season, a lot of different storylines. You got some people you're trying to throw in on a spot start, kind of rescue your season at this point in the mix. So let's get around the horn. Storylines that we're following. Matthew, what's your storyline for Week 15 we need to be targeting?
Well, it's not even necessarily targeted, but I just think one of the fascinating storylines that was, as we enter into the fantasy playoffs here, is the Houston Texans. They have been a fantasy bonanza for so much of the season, but they're as banged up as any team in the NFL right now. We know C.J. Stroud has already been ruled out. We expect Nico Collins to be ruled out. We know no Tank Dell. Dalton Schultz has missed the last couple of weeks, and now they have to go on the road to a Tennessee Titans team that just upset the Miami Dolphins. What kind of fantasy production can we expect from Noah Brown, from Dalton Schultz? Do they lean on the running backs on the road at Tennessee? So I think, can you get any production out of the Houston Texans is one of the big fantasy storylines for today.
And Schultz was on a snap share last time, which was a little concerning considering that run he had for 5-6 weeks where he was one of the top performing fantasy tight ends.
We're in the fantasy playoffs. It's like don't get cute time, but you may not have a chance. You may not have the opportunity to play, all locked in stars. You may have to make some risky decisions, which is what we're here to do. I am all about risky decisions. Make no mistake about
Matthew,
that.
risky decisions.
Well, just
Barry.
make no mistake. My wife is stuck in a marriage because of a risky decision. I mean, just let's be clear.
Sometimes
It'd be
long
like
shots
that.
pay off.
Yeah, sometimes they do. Yeah, I think jury's still out for my wife, and if it worked out. But yeah,
Lawrence, what do you got?
As the great businessman Jesse Pinkman likes to say, can he keep getting away with this? And I'm talking about Joe Flacco. Can he keep getting away with it versus this emerging Bears defense who hasn't let up more than 15 points in 3 of their last 4 games? We know the Browns are going to throw the ball. Joe Flacco has thrown it at least 44 times in his 2 starts, but can he get away with it versus this Bears defense that just stopped the Lions?
Keep talking dirty to me as a Bears fan here. Ever since they got Montez Sweat, they look like a
Yeah,
top
that's
5
right,
defense.
that's right. They got
Right.
a little pass rush going on, everything.
Flacco threw one of the most baffling picks I've seen last week. He's not he's not back to 2012 Joe Flacco.
Nah,
But
he's just throwing a lot.
Yeah, he's throwing a lot.
Such a small sample size, but you see those 2 weeks, and now people are going nuts.
Just to calm down a little bit.
They ready to sign him to 5 years, $230 million guaranteed now.
Yeah.
Flacco's already made the loot after winning that Super Bowl.
I saw like 3 of us at this table are still faster than Joe Flacco and have more pocket mobility.
I won't argue that.
Who are you ruling out?
Lawrence. Yeah. Lawrence is quite slow. George, my storyline. So Green Bay Packers, they hurt me last week, George. Hurt my feelings, hurt my bank account, which is correlated with my feelings. They were terrible against the New York Giants. They were absolutely terrible. Jordan Love looked like the same guy who early in the season was awful in those back-to-back games in primetime against the Lions and the Raiders. So who's the real Jordan Love? Who are the real Green Bay Packers? Are they a team that destroyed the Lions on Thanksgiving and beat the Chiefs the following week? Or are they the team that was 3-5 and headed for a blah season? And then as a result of that, who steps up in the passing game between Wicks, Dobbs, Jaden Reed? Who's going to emerge from that group today in what is a really favorable matchup against the Bucs?
It's almost like passing game roulette for the Packers wide receiver core as far as which guy goes off. Christian Watson, though, last year, this point of the season, was when he really had that upward trajectory. We're starting to see that again. But last week against the Giants, is it just forget about it? You think it was a 1 week blip?
The 10th time that Tommy DeVito took off down the middle after the edge rushers overcommitted, I couldn't believe it. One of the worst games to have money on the Packers in that one, but I think they will bounce back because it's such a favorable pass matchup against the Bucs. But I don't know what to expect from Jordan Love because some days he looks like Patrick Mahomes, and some days he very much does not, like he did against the Giants.
He looks like Jackson Mahomes.
Yes, correct. There you go.
There you go.
Like Jackson.
I was going to say Gardner Minshew, but Gardner Minshew was awesome yesterday.
Yes, he was.
Minshew Mania.
Yeah, he was.
Back at it.
Kira. Inside joke.
I mean, besides getting Michael Pittman level, but yeah.
That was
How
that
nasty
That was awful. That
yeah.
was awful.
Yeah.
I'll just say, for whatever it's worth, just since it came up, I like Jordan Love today.
Okay,
I think
you're a
Jordan
believer.
Love. Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
that's kind of come up in a little
love
bit,
man.
but just, you know.
Well, Jay likes positive affirmation, so it's very kind of
Yeah,
you.
well, it's
Following
as
in the
long as it's
backside.
correlated with his bank account.
Well, Jackson Mahomes, nice segue to the Chiefs and what's going on in Chiefs Kingdom.
Jackson Mahomes is never a nice segue.
We,
Two different- I mean,
the only Jacksons we like to mention is Lawrence Jackson and Lamar Jackson here. No Jackson Mahomeses.
Which I'm assuming we're going
like
to hear
Janet.
more of.
Phil?
Love her.
Phil?
I love Janet Jackson.
Phil's got 11 rings.
Phil Jackson. I'm a big Phil Jackson guy.
Yes, sir.
So,
indeed.
yeah, there's other
Same.
Jacksons that we like.
Well,
But
yeah,
yeah.
as a Bulls fan, I can get
Yeah,
behind Phil
come on.
Jackson. But Chiefs, two different fines paid. I don't know if they went Randy Moss straight cash homie, but you had Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes each paying fines for bashing officiating last week. The Chiefs, at this point of the season now, 8-5. Offense has been sputtering a bit since their beatdown of my Bears. So my big question here, you go to face 3-10 Patriots in New England. On paper, that should be a blowout game, a get-right game for the Chiefs. They just had Bailey Zappi. They just went on the road to beat the Steelers with a winning record, which kind of smoke and mirrors with the Steelers from what we've seen after the loss yesterday drops them to 7-7. But if they lose that game and fall to 8-6, then we're thinking, okay, are they a playoff bubble team? They win this week, 9-5, completely different narrative around the Chiefs. But I think if you're a Chiefs fan, you're getting close to hitting that panic button with how poor their wide receiving core has been, leading the NFL in drops, especially drops over 20 yards down the field.
Yep.
It's been a disaster with their wide receiving core.
Chiefs are only an 8-point favorite today, so there's about a 25% chance they'll have the same record as the Indianapolis Colts in 10 hours or so. So it's not been good for the Chiefs, but I think they will get right, and I'm going to touch on some bets in a later
Yeah,
segment.
I think so too. I think they're desperate. I think they're desperate as well. Guys, this is breaking news just in here. I literally just got an alert from the Fantasy Life app. Thank you very much. Adam Schefter just tweeted this out. Eagles are downgrading quarterback Jalen Hurts to questionable for Monday night's game in Seattle after his sickness worsened overnight, per a source. Hurts still is harboring hopes of playing Monday night and is traveling to Seattle separately from the team so as to try not to get anyone, I assume it's then sick. It breaks off there. For anyone else sick. Get anyone else sick. So
Nice deductive reasoning, though.
Yeah.
Did How hurt?
So no. It's just the anyway.
It's like a Jordan flu game.
It's just how the alert came up. So anyway, but I think this is super important, obviously, because it's fantasy playoff time. It's the Monday night game, and Jalen Hurts has carried a lot of fantasy teams to the finals. So here's what I'm going to do. Here's what I would say. Is we're not going to know until Monday. He's going to travel to I'm just going off what Schefter just tweeted. He's going to travel to Seattle. But there's a chance he does not play. So I think what you need to do is have a pivot. Is Drew Lock available? You know what I mean?
Is Marcus Mariota available? He's not in our league, so I
Got to
just
be
picked
one
him
of
up.
those.
Okay, did you? Nice job. While I was talking, you picked up Marcus Mariota in our league.
Slick little guy.
It's every man for himself. The fantasy football happy
Take no
hour.
privilege.
Matthew just giving all the, he's doing his job, giving the
That's
info.
right.
You
By
back
the
door.
way, by the way, you know who has Jalen Hurts in our show league? Me.
Oh, great. I'll be on a buy, right?
I'm on a bye because I have the number one team.
So
you good.
And so you'll be eliminated this week, and
Yeah,
so it'll be fine.
We'll see.
But the expectation is that Jalen Hurts plays next week. But I think that's important. Yes, whether it's Marcus Mariota or Drew Lock, but I would say it depends on who else you have. If I have Sam Howell, right? If I have somebody like that, if I have chances are you don't have Brock Purdy. But if you have like an upper tier number 2 quarterback. They just haven't played because you've had Jalen Hurts. I might roll the dice and play him. Yeah, I mean, again, like it's just
Protect your downside risk.
it depends on where you're at. But just if you have somebody that you feel pretty good about, like a Howell, then I would start him, or a Stafford for sure, right? But if not, I'm not going to the waiver wire and just picking.
Right.
I'm not picking up Desmond Ridder and starting him instead of Jalen Hurts because I think the upside of Hurts is too great. But just being downgraded to questionable is a big deal.
Yep.
Ritter was QB2 last week. What?
Tell him, George. Let him know, George.
In no way would I think he'd replicate that again this week. Was a good plug and play. You've been banging that Ritter drum for what, weeks and weeks?
No, I haven't. Look at that.
You said you're Ritter number one.
He's like, don't paint me with that Ritter brush. He's like, you're on your own,
Hey, when the weather's right, you know what I'm saying? When it's a good day out there,
With
Desmond
72
Ridder could,
sunny in the dome?
He could do a little something, just like every other middling quarterback. Like a shout out to Gardner Minshew, who was balling out yesterday.
Yeah, he's fantastic. Yeah, we cannot mention him in the same breath as Ritter anymore, in fact. He's actually vaulted himself a tier above. Good for you, Gardner. You're not in the Ritter zone anymore.
Yeah.
It's reserved for Mitch Trubisky.
Yeah.
Until next week.
Yeah. It is, but anyway, that's going to be a big storyline. I think this Jalen Hurts thing, and that's the dirtiest thing I've ever seen in my life. Is you picking up? Well, I'm actually giving news to the people at home.
I played a win, Matthew. I played a win.
You know what
The best is a grin that he has. Oh, I already picked him up.
Here's what I could have done. I could have just very quietly, because you didn't get that alert. I could have picked up Mariota myself, and then given the news to the people. But I wanted to bring the news to the people immediately.
Yeah, I know.
Well, and you could have just said it late breaking after you had already done the pickup instead of breaking.
But I'm not an asshole. Like
what?
I'm out here with the people out here.
The fantasy guy's gonna bless you, man.
I appreciate that. Thank you, Lawrence.
See, good karma.
I ate first. I get the chicken wing, and then everyone else can fight for the people. Get the leftovers.
This one.
All right, let's get
This
to
animal.
burning questions
Yeah.
now, as we're gonna dive in around the horn.
All right, look at that.
Terrifying. My hand.
That's a creepy hand.
Yeah,
That's like
let's go with
the
your
hand off a
There's
scary
Michael
movie.
Smith. We didn't get George in, obviously. In case you haven't figured it out yet, Michael's out today.
I look better with a beard and glasses anyway. So.
Fair enough.
I'm on there looking mad.
George filling in for
I've
Michael.
never seen someone angrier around the fire than what Lawrence has. So here's what we have with Matthew's top players here. We got Jets and Dolphins.
Yeah. These are my top players. Is there a question, or is there a question, George, or is just like, here, go?
Okay.
All right. No, it's all right. I got your job. Don't you worry. You sit back. You sit back. You pick up Marcus Mariota in your own leagues. I got this. It's fine. I think the big question, obviously, around the Dolphins is the health of their two big stars, is Tirico Hill and Devon Achane, and what happens if they can't go. Now, Tirico Hill, it's going to be left up to him. It's a game-time decision. We'll know this within the next 30 to 45 minutes as to whether or not he's going to be active. But what ends up happening if, for some reason, he can't go? You see it right there. Tirico Hill has arrived ahead of the Dolphins' battle with the Jets. No limp for Cheetah, says Cameron Wolf of the NFL Network. Cam, by the way, I used to work with at ESPN. He's a big fantasy player. He gets the implication as well. Rich Samini of the Jets. Question of the day, will Tirico Hill play? Early look at his pregame warm-ups here. You see him out there.
He just looks totally fine every time he's hurt. I don't understand it.
I feel like he plays.
Yeah.
I will tell you, I feel like he plays. 2,000 yards is important. This is a big game for the Dolphins. They need to win this game.
You gotta win it.
This is an important game for Tirico Hill on a personal level. It's a big game for the Dolphins on the NFL level. I would say that if for some reason Tirico Hill doesn't play, Cedric Wilson suddenly becomes sort of interesting. Once Tirico Hill left last week, 100% route participation when Hill was not on the field. He had a 26.7% target share. They looked for him. Cedric Wilson is not Tirico Hill. He's not anywhere close, but this is a pass-first offense, and Wilson, if you're truly desperate, might get some run. But I don't think it's going to come down to that because I think Tirico Hill plays, guys.
Well, and Mike McDaniel's saying it's his decision. If you're quote-unquote leaving it up to the players' hands and they think they can go, they're going to go.
The player's
always going to play.
The player's not going to be like, nah,
Not always. There's a couple of players out there that I know was like, but Tirico Hill is not one of those guys.
You must be prepared, though, if you're a Tyreek manager. Just be prepared for him to, be on the sideline sometime and getting some treatment in and out. Like, if he plays, I figure at worst, like how he was against the Titans. But for me, the Dolphins will be starting their 10th different offensive line combination this year. They're down to the backups when it at their center spot, backup guard, right tackle. So look for that too as an underlying storyline, because you gotta protect Tua. Like, he ain't Justin Fields. Like, he's got to get protected to get the guys the football.
Yeah, I would suspect with Tyreek as well, if he can do that on just practicing before the game, then just have him out there as a decoy, or just bring him in the second half, honestly, if you're losing at that point. So I suspect he'd go. And here's the thing, too, is that I'm sure some people are nervous about starting Tyreek if he is active. I think you just have to start Tyreek whatever happens.
For sure. Achane, I'd be a little more concerned just with his inability to have actually like a full complement of carries alongside Mostert the last 3 to 4 weeks. But Tyreek Hill last week was a bit of a decoy, and it's not like Cedric Wilson looked amazing in that second half of the game. All right. Yep. Got this question from Ryan H. I need 2 wide receivers in my 10-team PPR league, as I'm getting around Matthew's iPad. DJ Moore, Olave, Ridley, or Jaden Reed. I'm down big thanks to Laporta, #FF Pregame. What are we thinking?
Sam La League winner over there. I'm going to go with Tyreek Hill and DJ Moore. By the way, the expectation right now is that Chris Olave is not going to play. I do think Jaden Reed is kind of interesting. Again, we'll talk about it in a little bit in a second. Ridley's been so up and down. If Tyreek is active, I think you have to start Tyreek Hill, and DJ Moore has been nothing short of phenomenal with Justin Fields under center since he's been back. And so, to me, it'd be Tyreek and DJ Moore. And then if for some reason Tyreek Hill is inactive, I would put in Jaden Reed. It would be DJ Moore and Jaden Reed. Again, I'm assuming Olave is not going to be active.
Yeah, I have DJ Moore in one of my leagues. He's a must-start each and every week. You have Justin
definitely.
Fields
He's
under
having
center.
a career year this year.
Also, the Browns' defense is great, but they're missing like half of their team. It's insane, the rash of injuries in Cleveland, and the guys in the secondary particularly. So I don't think their defense is as imposing as it was in weeks past.
No, I agree. And Lawrence, I think on Wednesday's fantasy football happy hour, keeping the
which show are we on?
It's hard to keep track. But on Wednesday's fantasy football happy hour, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think you took the Chicago money line in our look ahead.
Yeah, they were 3.5. They're now 3. So keep an eye out on that for the Bears to pull a second upset in a row here.
I'm feeling Bears similar to Lions last year with that late season.
You know,
if
they get this win, we might be talking about that.
They're in the hunt.
They're gonna have.
That's
that
all I want as a
Carolina
Bears
pick.
fan, in the hunt.
Their other pick though, that's getting pushed back further and further with each week. So,
but you got a glut of teams with 5 wins, where they could have 5-6 pick, or it could end up being a 10-12 range based on what happens these last 5 games.
If they win today, they can absolutely make the playoffs. Like, their schedule is very easy. I think it's Arizona, Atlanta, and Green Bay to close. That's very doable. Also, I think this matchup between the Browns and the Bears, it might be the biggest disparity in speed between 2 starting quarterbacks in NFL history. I cannot imagine there has ever been a bigger gap between Justin Fields and Joe Flacco. It has to be the biggest.
Yeah, I mean, Justin Fields is like one of the fastest guys in the NFL, and Joe Flacco is literally my speed.
Yeah. Yeah, so watch out for that.
Yeah, I like the Bears.
That might be an insult to you. I mean, I think you could probably take Flacco head to head.
Yeah, probably. But I mean, and I'll tell you that. I mean, I like the Bears' defense as it plays today as well.
Sure.
Obviously, given to your point, not only the Browns so banged up in the secondary and on defense, but their offensive line as well.
Everyone's gone.
Yep. Everyone's gone.
All
It's really
tackles.
beat up. Since the Bears have gotten Montez Sweat, they've been an absolutely terrific defense as well. They get after it again. Flacco not particularly mobile. Mm-hmm. I think it's a low. It's the over under I want to say is 37.5 off the top of my head.
And it's
37.5. 37.5. Yeah.
2.5 now. That was 3.5 when we talked about it on Wednesday.
That line's shortening. All right, next burning question is we're going to dive into what might be my game of the day to watch. Dallas and Buffalo. Panic level on Stephon Diggs. He's 3 of the last 4 weeks. He has had clunkers. We keep waiting for that vintage Diggs 100-plus yards, multi-touchdown performance. We just haven't been seeing it the last month.
Yeah, he's had single-digit fantasy points in 3 of the last 4. He's had an under 50% catch rate in the last 3 games. He's played, just 80% of the snaps in 2 of the past 3 games, which is his 2 lowest rates this season, excluding blowouts. I mean, so there's a lot. The panic meter is higher than it normally would be for a player of his caliber on a team of that caliber offensively. Having said all that, I'm back in on Stephon Diggs. He's my wide receiver 6. Cowboys are not the Cowboys defense that we saw early in the season. Over the last month, they've allowed the 7th most fantasy points to opposing wide receivers. Since Joe Brady took over as the offense coordinator, Diggs has a 26% target share. He's had double-digit targets in back-to-back games as well. So I feel like he's going to continue to get looks. We talked about this on Friday, but I can't go into a fantasy playoffs and bench Stefon Diggs, because if Stefon Diggs goes off in the playoffs on my bench and I lose, I'm going to feel like a moron. And if I lose my fantasy playoffs with Stefon Diggs in my starting lineup, then I lost my fantasy playoffs. Stefon Diggs, who we all agree is on a pure talent basis, is one of the best wide receivers in the NFL, with one of the better quarterbacks in the NFL. Like, it just, you go down swinging with your best players, and sometimes it doesn't work out. But I would rather that scenario. I'd rather go down with, because Stefon Diggs is also one of those guys that all he needs is one play to make your day.
He had 11 targets last week. You mentioned the Dallas defense. The recent weeks, they've been letting 2 receivers have decent days. Like A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith went for 94 and 73 respectively. We saw what the Seahawks receivers did to those guys. Even JSN got in on the action. Curtis Samuel had 100 yards a few weeks back against Dallas, so it's there to be had. Even if Dalton Kincaid has a night, there's room for Stefon Diggs and somebody else to have a nice day, especially with the over-under of 49 in the game.
Yep, Geno Smith had the best game of his entire career against Dallas a couple of weeks ago. And also the Eagles, I know they only scored 13 points and it was ugly. They also fumbled 3 times at the 30, basically. And so they moved the ball with more success than the score implied. So I think that Diggs, he'll be fine. And I agree with Matthew. It's all about what you can sleep easiest with, and starting Stefon Diggs is an easy one.
All right, what do we got next here as I'm diving around?
This is from Daniel. Do you need me to read it?
Yeah, you go for it.
So this is Daniel at Orange Buckeyes. Are the Buckeyes orange? I don't think they are. No. I believe they are. They're silver and white, aren't they? Yeah, maybe it's a different kind of Buckeye. Anyway, listen. 2-player keeper league, standard, no non-PPR scoring. All right, so it's huge fan, love the show! Exclamation point. So now we know he means it. Tied for the number 1 seed at 10-4 by points. Well done, Daniel. See, he watches the show. He's a big fan. He's 10-4 with the number 1 seed. Got it. Win, and I play the limping into the playoffs 4 seed next week. Is it crazy to start Nakua or Devontae Smith over Diggs? Am I getting cute? Hashtag FF pregame. It is not crazy. You are not getting crazy. Having said that, I would not do that. Yeah, I would, especially given the news that we just got about Jalen Hurts. If Marcus Mariota plays any part of this game, you would certainly downgrade Devontae Smith. I'm going with Nakua and Diggs. That would be what I would do if I were you, Daniel. Any disagreements there?
Nope.
And I think, you hit the nail on the head there earlier in the show. When people start making those type of moves where you bench Diggs, you're big braining yourself. And just trying to overthink it versus if you have a guy with star power, they are bound to deliver at some point. The law of statistical averages favors having that type of guy in your lineup. So to bench Stefon Diggs, I think is foolish. You're just asking to have one of those weeks where you're seeing all these bench points as your season comes to a close.
And they're going to need Stefon Diggs versus the Cowboys. It's one thing to beat the Chiefs, who they don't have any receivers on their team up to par like that. But versus this Cowboys offense who've been letting it rip for 8-9 straight weeks, you're going to need your best offensive player outside of Josh Allen.
Yep, non-PPR as well, which diminishes Puka a little bit. So if you've only got to start one, I would be starting Diggs.
Yeah, but I like that you put in 2-player keeper league, which doesn't matter at all whatsoever for this question.
He just wanted to let us know the backstory.
I appreciate that. By the way, Nick Underhill, who covers the Saints really closely, reporting that Chris Olave officially going to be out today. So, as expected.
Break for Croucher.
Yeah.
In goes Elijah Moore.
Yeah, well, there you go. Listen, Rashid Shaheed, sleeper today, baby.
Yeah, that's true. Wide receiver 1.
Yeah.
All right, next game, Baltimore, Jacksonville. This should be a good one. So,
way to sell the NBC show, George.
I like the George declared
should be a great one, Matthew Berry on Sunday Night Football.
How tough was that?
Is that what you want? You want Vince Lombardi pep talk here for our SNF game?
Second,
Listen,
he forgot
George.
This game was on NBC.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what it was.
Look, George.
I've only had half a cup of coffee.
Listen, it doesn't matter what I want, but that's fine. We will. Should be a good one. We're going to send that tape to Sam Flood. We'll see how it all works out for you. We're going to send that. We'll just shoot that over, Steven, if you can. Just clip that little piece of George. Just shoot that over to Sam.
And
we'll
that's
see how
the
that
last
all works
time
out.
I host Fantasy
Anyway,
Football Pregame. So for this, are we ready to turn back the clock with what we've seen out of OBJ the last few weeks? Is he now a must start each and every week, or has this just been a touchdown heavy hot streak?
I think it's somewhere in between. I don't want to say that he's quote unquote a must start, but I do really like his chances tonight against the Jaguars. I will say, so I'm at wide receiver 20. Understand, of course, 4 games have already played, and what we do with the rankings is we take all of the players that have already played out. So 8 different teams, 4 games, 8 teams have been removed from the rankings. So Beckham moves up to wide receiver 20 for the games that are remaining. Look, here's the positives on OBJ. 10 targets last week as well. He's had at least 5 receptions of 20 or more yards in his last 3 games since week 9. He's averaging 13.5 fantasy points per game. And over the last month, the Jaguars allow the second most yards per game to opposing wide receivers. And I don't have a stat for this, but Odell Beckham Jr. looks as healthy as I've seen him in a long time. It is a primetime game that the Ravens need to win because they've got a legit shot at the #1 seed in the AFC. This is a big game for Baltimore. OBJ was recruited to Baltimore by Lamar Jackson. Primetime game. I think OBJ has a big game. That's just sort of a gut call. I've got some stats to back that up, but gut call, primetime. Give me Odell Beckham Jr. with a spotlight on him.
He's become their big play receiver. Like if Lamar not hitting him on the deep ball, Lamar's looking for him on the deep ball. He's averaged 82 receiving yards in his last 3 games, and he's now getting the targets to back that up. And in that same span, he's had at least 7 targets. So it's the Zay Flowers and OBJ show for real now.
Well, I know what's happened over the last 3 weeks. Mark Andrews goes down with injury.
Right.
Isaiah likely steps up, but a lot of the target share has now fallen on those 2 guys.
And Beckham, by the way, he played like 50% of the snaps where you're like, wow, that's not a ton, but it's more than he had been. His snap rate is increasing, and when he's out there, he's getting targeted a bunch. Like, they're not just having him do wind sprints. Like, when he's out there, he's a big part of the offense.
All right, we got the panic button here. Need help today. Full PPR flex position. Who do you start? Waddle, Zeke, OBJ, Foreman, Connor. Thanks. Hashtag FF pregame, 1 of 5. Spinning the dial, and where does it land?
It's Waddle or Zeke.
It's Waddle or
about
Zeke.
to say Zeke.
I'm going Zeke.
I mean,
Zeke,
I know this sounds insane, but I think it's Ezekiel Elliott just because, you're facing the Jets. Now, I know Waddle had a huge game against the Jets a couple of weeks ago as well. And it feels a little cute, like I'm going to bench Jalen Waddle for Ezekiel Elliott. But just in terms of massive workload, I think I feel better about Zeke going against the Chiefs, and just, massive volume than I do about Waddle going up against DJ Reed and Sauce Gardner, especially if Tyreek Hill is less than 100%.
Yeah, I just thought the Jets.
By the way, that's the argument. The Waddle argument is that with Tyreek Hill, he might be more of a decoy, and Waddle's the guy that's practiced all week.
Yeah.
Right.
And against this. So,
But with Tua, you haven't seen a 3+ touchdown game in quite some time. So if he's going to throw 1 to 2 touchdown passes, if Tyreek plays, and Tyreek has been a touchdown machine this year, that's why we haven't seen Waddle put up those types of numbers he has the last couple of years, because their running game's been so good.
Jace, I'll say this. I don't think you can, assuming you only choose between Waddle or Zeke, I don't think you can screw this up. But ultimately, who's got the better shot at a touchdown? It's Ezekiel Elliott. So I'm going to go with the guys here. I think you start Zeke.
And talk about a segue. Let's head into our next game. Kansas City and New England. I'm hitting the full panic button on the Chiefs at the Patriots. Must-win game, double underline in a big way for the Chiefs. So can Zeke turn back the clock for a second straight week? Are we all buying that? It seems like we're quite bullish on Mr. Elliott against the Chiefs.
Yeah, I think he can turn back the clock because he has, and he was excellent against the Steelers. And the key with Zeke, I think, is that it's not just the rushing volume, which we expect that he will get a ton of, even if the game script does turn negative, they still will try and run the ball. It's just because of the passing game usage.
Yeah.
Like, he was used as a peak Austin Eckler type of weapon out of the backfield against the Steelers, and you suspect that he'll have to be used the same way against Kansas City.
Chiefs, by the way, are a bottom 12 run defense over the last month as well. And so, to your point about Zeke's passing game usage, 30% target share for Ezekiel Elliott last week with Bailey Zappi under center. No Ramondre Stevenson once again. today against the Chiefs, who have allowed 100 yards from scrimmage in 2 of the last 3 games to opposing running backs. So it's a pretty good matchup at home against the Chiefs, where we expect New England to be a little bit more competitive than maybe you might expect. So, yeah, I have Ezekiel Elliott as a top 10 play this week, which is crazy to think about.
And think about this, too, for the people watching. No other running back got a carry last week for the Patriots. Ty Montgomery had 1 catch. That's like they're not even thinking about using another running back. So if he had the 29 touches, like he's at least getting 20 touches today against the Chiefs.
From SLH, #FF Pregame, HN with injury concerns or Zeke PPR.
Zeke, it'll be Zeke.
It'll be Zeke. I mean, again, assuming I have HN at 14, I have Zeke at 8. Like, I even fully healthy, I mean, I banked the injury concerns a little bit into the rankings as well, but just, rather face the Chiefs than the Jets, and I'd rather get 100% of the running back carries. I'd rather get 100% of the running back carries than 50%, even though I get it, HN can break one at any given moment, but
I think the good thing with this type of thing too is that just with the nature of fantasy, Zeke can have a massive fantasy day without playing well, because he's just going to get a ton of dump offs if it goes south, and if it's going well, then he's going to be running the ball a ton. So I think he has a very high floor today.
You know why I'm believing Zeke? 3 words: Mac Jones benched.
Yes.
You Bailey Zappi, he at least pushes it downfield.
Yeah.
I mean, he's Bailey Zappi's kind of boom or bust, but their offense looks so much better with him under center than it had all season with Mac Jones.
Yeah.
Okay.
we'll get into this. We'll get into this afterwards. But I just want to Tyreek Hill officially inactive.
Oh boy.
Whoa!
Devon, NFL Network reporting that just came through. Devon Achane, however, is active. We'll talk more about this on the other side. But just heads up, we'll break it all down. We still got a little bit of time before game time, but Tyreek Hill inactive for the Dolphins today.
Disregard everything we just said about Tyreek Hill.
I thought he would try to go. He looked healthy. I don't know. This is very surprising. I will say this though. I'm still going Ezekiel Elliott over Waddle to go back to the previous guy. But it's much closer. It's much closer.
Yep.
All right, this segment.
I just still think he has a better shot at a touchdown.
That brings me back to my college bartending glory days as we go shot for shot here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Matthew, we're going to give you the honor. What are you most confident in here?
All right. Let's see. Let me find my Titans shot glass here. Here we go. All right. Where's which camera am I going to here, guys? All right. Screw it. Main camera. That's fine. I'll figure it out on my own. I got it. All right. For the 6th straight game, Derrick Henry goes for 100 rushing yards against the Texans. He always kills the Houston. Last 5 games, he's had 100 or more rushing yards against them. 4 of those games, he had over 200 rushing yards. Titans are home favorites in this one as well. Another 100 yards for King Henry. 6 straight against the Texans.
You got to flip the logo around too. You got the football.
I've got 2.
Okay, yeah, there we go.
I've got. I have Titans on either side.
We spare no expense for our shot glasses here.
Indeed. All right, my shot, and this one feels especially safe. Now, the Dolphins' offense struggles again, and the Jets cover plus 8.5. That line is now down to 7.5 on DraftKings with the news that Tyreek is out. I think that should be even lower. I think this should arguably be inside a touchdown.
Aaron Rodgers may be coming back next week's too.
I can't quite get that. He's not eluding pass rushers. He's not going to play.
I'll tell you another line that should keep on changing. I got Justin Fields right here. I got him finishing as a top 5 quarterback. Woo! And the Bears going on the road to Cleveland to beat Joe Flacco's Cleveland Browns.
Be still my beating heart.
Wow,
Let's go.
Okay, I got the Saints.
Okay, what a downer.
Yeah.
That's such a mood lifter.
Taysom Hill, 75-plus total yards, rushing and receiving, and a touchdown. And he'll finish as a top 5 tight end this week. The Taysom Hill train continues to take off in the fantasy playoffs.
He's still in a touchdown today, huh?
Mm-hmm. Swing it back to you, Matthew. Round number 2.
Yep, sure. All right, let me see. Here we go. Here's the next one. All right. Okay, now we're good.
That first
Green Bay
shot got you a little
Packers.
wobbly.
Packers on the other side too. I don't
Kevin
want George
doing
to get confused.
Kubrick type of work behind
Yeah,
the camera over there.
Exactly. All right.
Scorsese would be proud.
My second shot is around the Packers. Jordan Love gets back on track. He finishes as a top 10 quarterback today. Jaden Reed, over 15 fantasy points. Get this, Jordan Love at home this season, games in Lambeau, over 19 fantasy points per game. Since week 11, Tampa Bay is a bottom 5 pass defense. Jordan Love gets back on track, and Jaden Reed, with Christian Watson out, continues his hot streak. At least 15 fantasy points for Jaden Reed today.
Okay. All right. Dak Prescott, the MVP co-favorite in the market right now with Brock Purdy. He keeps rolling. He goes over 270.5 passing yards. The Bills' defense is really banged up at the moment. We already know about the guys who got injured early in the season. Milano, Trey White, Daquan Jones. Now Micah Hyde is out. AJ Epinesa, who's arguably been their best pass rusher, he is out today. There's just no one left on this defense. So I still think the Bills are going to win because I think that Josh Allen will outplay Dak, but Dak goes over his passing prop.
All right.
Dak has been on such a heater.
He has, but it's been indoors
Speaking
or at
of-
Carolina.
Speaking
So now
of,
he plays a real game.
speaking of keeping it rolling, I'm going to talk about Matthew Stafford here and Sam Howell in a duel in a game that's the highest game total of the week at 50.5. I got Sam Howell and Matthew Stafford both throwing for at least 346 passing yards this week, right? In week 13, it was Sam Howell's first time not throwing at least 42 passes since week 6. Matthew Stafford, he's been hot lately. He's got 3 straight games with 3 touchdown passes. I think both offenses will light it up this weekend.
Whew, 346, and we just had that Hal Clunker recently when he went for $120 and McLaurin was shot out.
If he throw them 40 passes, you get him what you need.
Okay, I might need 2 shots for my next prediction here, but it helps with the potential Jalen Hurts news. I'm looking at that Seahawks-Eagles game. I'm taking Seahawks money line to end this 4-game skid. They're plus 150, taking the over. Both these defenses average giving up about 24 a game, over-unders at 46. I think the over is going to hit. And then sprinkle in Kenneth Walker over 11.5 receiving yards. He's been 30-plus. 2 of his last 3 weeks, fully healthy, was taken off the injury designation going into this. So that's where I am with the Seahawks. I'm buying the Seahawks to turn it around.
All right.
Yeah.
Fair
Like
enough.
it.
Fair enough.
Pork
All right,
up.
last one for me. There's nothing on here. It's just clear.
That's the wild card shot.
Clear shot of vodka right
Ever
here.
clear for this one?
Yeah,
Untouched
it's
vodka.
so we've already seen this. We saw this with Ty Chandler yesterday. We saw this with Zamir White on Thursday. Backup running backs have made a difference in the fantasy playoffs week 1, and I think that continues today. Ezekiel Elliott, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, and Antonio Gibson, because Brian Robinson is out for my Commanders. So in that order, actually, I would say Zeke, Antonio Gibson, Clyde Edwards-Helaire. That's my order. But those 3 all finish its top 20-ish running backs and make a difference in the fantasy playoffs. I have Zeke as a top 10 play today.
All right. Okay, well, Christian McCaffrey is the best running back in the NFL, but Kyren Williams might be staking a claim to be second the way that he's playing at the moment. And we've seen the Rams, when they get up big, they like to run the ball to maintain a lead in the second half. I think Kyren Williams goes for 125-plus rushing yards and 2 touchdowns on the ground against your Commanders.
Yes.
It's amazing me how many touches he
they
gets.
work. He plays like 98% of the snaps.
He's a
Gotta love it.
workhorse.
You gotta love it if you have him. Well, I'm gonna end my shot for shots with the game that we're gonna end with on Sunday night. Here,
You gotta hype it up.
Here, that's right. Here, that's right. NBC, you know.
Great job, yeah. That's as good as George saying that the game of the day was Bills-Cowboys, waiting all day for 4:25 p.m. Eastern.
So I'm gonna go to my guy Lamar Jackson here versus the Jaguars. I'm gonna say he goes for at least 402 total yards, 4 touchdowns against these Jaguars, who allow the 3rd most fantasy points per game to quarterbacks, and they got the 2nd worst passing defense in the league. So with that coupled with the Ravens passing game getting going, it's gonna be a big day for the Birds.
Jaguars banged up too.
Yep.
I feel like fantasy football pregame doesn't officially start until Lawrence has some type of over for Lamar Jackson.
Yeah, we got like every few weeks I go back to the well for something big, and then today 402 at least, not 400, 402.
Don't shortchange the man. That
Yeah.
extra deuce on top.
Need every yard.
Okay, well, we saw Will Levis go off against the Dolphins. His over-under's 203.5. He's hit that his last two starts. I feel like the offense is starting to get into a rhythm, a.k.a. just feed it to DeAndre Hopkins. So I'm going to take the over. And for anyone streaming him or throw him in as a potential playoff quarterback, say you have another guy who's dinged up, he's going to be a top 10 fantasy quarterback this week. So that's my final shot there.
Could go.
Sure.
That was really met with tepid and muted reaction.
It's fine. It's a respectable shot.
It's okay. Who let the dogs out? Chicago versus Cleveland, 1 p.m. Eastern on Fox.
Yeah.
That dog is faster than Joe Flacco.
Yeah.
Just getting ricochets from Joe Flacco
like Joe.
across the board. Coming up next, Prop-A-Shot.
Jay ain't wrong though.
Show off
All
those
the inactive.
rocket
we'll break
arms
down
next.
Tyreek Hill next.
All right, start sit time. Notable Week 15 injury questionables. Achane active, Aaron Jones for the Packers active, DJ Moore as we are anticipating. He's suiting up, as is Chris Godwin. Noah Brown potentially should have a big game with all the Texans injury concerns. Darren Waller back. Look at the guys out. Tyreek Hill we mentioned earlier. Olave out, and A.J. Dillon, thumb issue with the Packers, also out. C.J. Stroud, On the Pine, Isaiah Pacheco just had that cleanup shoulder procedure, should return next week. Nico Collins also out, Brian Robinson Jr. and Christian Watson out as well. So, nice transition to deep league waiver ads. Donta Foreman makes sense.
Deontay Foreman, got 73% of the team's running back carries last week as well. Clyde Edwards-Helaire comes in at running back 23. I'm really deciding between those two and Demario Douglas for 2 spots in a playoff game today. Juju Smith-Schuster officially out
More
for
upside.
the Patriots. Foreman's got the better shot at the touchdown. The Chiefs it's a better offense, right? And neither is a great matchup there as well. And then how about Jerick McKinnon, who last week got 7 touches to CEH in the red zone last week. Out-touched him.
Would you rather have McKinnon or CEH?
I think I'd actually rather have CEH. I get it with McKinnon, but a lot of that came like on a 2-minute drill. McKinnon's their passing down back. I don't think they're going to be trailing the Patriots. I don't know how much offense the Patriots are able to generate here. So I think CEH actually, second game, I think they get him going, actually. I kind of like CEH at the moment.
All right, wide receivers available in over 50% of leagues, and some of the names on the list that jump out to you. Obviously, you see with Olave out, Rashid Shaheed could be a popular pick, but who are you targeting?
I think Zay Jones is really interesting, right? 22 targets over the last 2 weeks. I know it hasn't shown up in the box score yet, but they're targeting him a lot in a game in which the Jaguars are down and should be throwing. They're underdogs to the Ravens. We expect Baltimore to have a really nice offensive day. So I think Zay Jones is interesting. Demario Douglas, we just mentioned as well. Douglas has had at least 5 receptions in each of the last 4 games played. No Juju Smith-Schuster for the Patriots today as well. And then how about Noah Brown? Again, we've seen him be productive. I get it. It's going to be Case Keenum instead of C.J. Stroud. But no Nico Collins, no Tank Dell. They've got to throw to somebody. I sort of like Noah Brown here.
Case Keenum can at least pump it downfield.
Yeah.
You're not going to be totally limited with,
Also,
the play call.
Really favorable defense going against Tennessee. One of those guys, whether it is Noah Brown or Robert Woods has a renaissance day, there's a lot of variance.
Whoa.
Bobby Trees.
Renaissance.
All right, fountain of youth
Since
here.
we throwing the names out there, look out for rookie receiver from the Texans, Xavier Hutchinson. He played 73% of the snaps last week. Amazing body control when tracking the ball. If we're just going to be naming some Texans receivers, let me get him in there too.
All right, we're just jumping all over the Titans and Jets here with QBs and tight ends to stream.
Look, Zach Wilson, I get it, but negative game script. Houston, Will Levis and Zach Wilson, both those guys should be in positive game script for them. They should both be trailing and should both be throwing as well. It's worth noting that Zach Wilson did have 19 fantasy points last week. Obviously, Levis had the big game on Monday night as he led the comeback in terms of the tight ends as well. Chika Okonkwo has had at least 40 receiving yards in 3 straight games. And Tyler Conklin, in the last 4 games that he's played with Zach Wilson, he's gotten at least 5 targets in 3 of them. So, again, you're kind of down bad here. But I do think Okonkwo, especially, it's a nice matchup. I'm not worried about Houston.
Also, too, to your Zach Wilson point, the Dolphins' 2 starting safeties, Javon Holland and Deshaun Elliott, both out today.
Oh boy.
Yep. All right.
Jets win.
With Hill out, we're going all Commanders here. Should I go Samuel or McLaurin?
I get the question, and I get that McLaurin is coming off of a game in which he got 0 targets for 0 yards, and Curtis Samuel's been better. I just can't bench Terry McLaurin for Curtis Samuel on that team. I think coming out of the bye, they made a point of they have to get Terry McLaurin the ball. Like, he's one of the best players on the team. He's one of the most highly paid guys. It was a big story around Washington. Howell was asked directly about it, and, Howell's just like, I have to do better than that. We can't have a game where Terry McLaurin gets 0 targets. So I think they make a point of getting McLaurin involved today.
All right, let's go prop a shot. You've been on a hot streak.
No, you ain't been here recently. I done got
We got a few more to get to first. Outside of Waddle, who do I grab for Tyreek?
We
That's
talked
from
about
Nate.
this. I think it's Cedric Wilson. Again, if you're starting we just gave you some deep league guys, but if you're asking me specifically for a Dolphin, Cedric Wilson, who had 100% route participation when Tyreek Hill was not on the field last week, he would be the number 2 guy that would step up in a game in which, the Dolphins are going to struggle, I think, somewhat to move the ball against the Jets. Yep. So, I think there are other wide receivers, as we just sort of talked about. I'd rather Demario Douglas. I'd rather Noah Brown. But if you're asking me on the Dolphins, Cedric Wilson is the guy.
We got a couple more questions to pop through
Okay,
here.
ooh.
This is from Sam Schalke,
Yeah,
FF
a lot of
Pregame.
Tyreek here.
Tyreek being inactive, do I start Jalen Waddle or DeAndre Hopkins in my flex? Started Laporte yesterday, so ideally looking for a safer 4 play. That was a nice little humble brag to say.
Yeah,
oh,
nice
I
job
already
there, Sam.
Went off with Laporta.
yeah.
I'm going to go with Waddle. I look at it. Revenge game for DeAndre Hopkins, hashtag revenge game, and I get it, but I just think Waddle just gets more. DeAndre Hopkins last week he got a ton of targets and negative game script. I love DeAndre Hopkins, but I'm not benching Jalen Waddle for him.
Oh, okay.
That would be my. Feel free to disagree if you guys disagree.
Yeah, I'd probably go Hopkins. I mean,
Would you?
Yeah, Levis has been one to let it air out, push it downfield. They had at least three 40-yard plus attempts from Levis to Hopkins. Like he's not afraid. If there's single coverage, you just throw it up and try and let D-Hop make a play.
I think the thing is, though, is that if you've started Laporta already, there is a chance that Will Levis can just have a bad game and DeAndre Hopkins doesn't bring in his deep targets, whereas it feels like Waddle is just going to get peppered with double-digit targets and is going to get you 6-7
With
catches.
Tyreek Hill out, that makes sense.
Correct. And by the way, Hopkins, even though he had the massive game last week against Miami, they were down 2 touchdowns, the whole thing. Prior to that, he hadn't been getting a ton of targets. He'd hit some big plays, but he wasn't getting a ton of targets. I think this is, like I said, I think that's a big Derrick Henry game. I think they run like crazy, and so.
Well, and he had been boom or bust because that very first start against the Falcons for Hopkins, he had that 3 touchdown explosion and then a run of duds, like you were saying. All right, next from Faithful Facts. How about that handle? After Hill injury, would you play Noah Brown, Drake London, or Demario Douglas?
Just to give you an idea, so I have London at 27. Demario Douglas at 31 and Noah Brown at 32. So I think it's Drake London here. I get it. Not a great matchup on the road to Carolina. I don't like Desmond Ridder any more than you do either. I could easily see both Brown and Douglas having better days than Drake London, but I just feel like I'd rather Ridder to Drake London than Case Keenum to Noah Brown or Bailey Zappi to Demario Douglas. So I'm going to go with Drake London there.
That's where you just go with the best player
Yeah,
right
exactly.
there.
Yeah.
Default to the talents when it's close like that.
All right. Prop a shot. You said you've been on a cold streak.
Yeah.
We got to go all the way back to September, go deep in the memory archives to think of, okay, who was that fill-in guy for 1 week who hopped in on Prop a Shot? If we could roll the video, and then what did he do the one time that he got to kick off this segment and throw it in? So I know, Matthew, you probably blocked this out of your memory.
Yeah, I don't remember it.
All right, you want me to get this
Yeah,
underway?
you start, Kirk.
It's been off to such a good start through 2 weeks as I slowly get the chair over. I got to leverage up a little. All right, let's go.
Colt
Bring it some
McCoy.
heat.
Knocked you out, sir.
It's all right. No, but you just guaranteed that you're not coming back anytime soon.
Yeah, almost an interception,
Almost,
though.
yeah.
Because you're back.
So you guys doing your best, Zach Wilson?
so-
practice.
great.
So how about I'll go
spot.
last of the four.
So you're
let me-
efficient. Now we get to see the volume. All right, let me get a little Peyton Manning. Omaha! Let's
all
see.
right, let's see it.
That's old Peyton Manning. All right, Daddy, all right.
Oh, the Aussie.
Stuck it right behind the Hoosiers helmet.
Guy ran the wrong route. Guy ran the wrong route.
He got a little David Tyree helmet action going on back
You're
there.
taking out the set here. What'd that Hoosiers helmet ever do to you?
Exactly, nothing.
You're going to be caught in
Coming
the
in,
crossfire now. Oof. All right,
man.
beginner's
All right.
luck there.
Good job, Jay.
That one came
Fair
close
to
at
go.
least.
We need a statistical breakdown, and this brought
We
to
actually
you
don't.
by our friends at
Yeah, we
DraftKings.
don't. We
What
don't.
Matthew has done for the season
No,
here
not good.
in Prop a
The answer-
Shot.
The answer is not good. I've made it a few times, but not nearly as much.
All right, we're
As
feeling,
I should.
feeling
All
party
right.
with this one.
Yep.
Over under 252.5 for passing yards for Brock Purdy.
I'm going to take the over. He had 1 incomplete pass last time he played the Cardinals. Also, the Cardinals are going to
insane.
keep this game closer than expected. Niners really banged up on defense. So I think Purdy might need to be throwing more than you'd think, and he goes comfortably over.
Okay, the Zach Wilson experience suddenly trending upward after what we saw the last start. So is that going to have Garrett Wilson over 56.5 receiving yards.
Yeah, I'm actually going to hit the over. Miami has allowed this number to a receiver in 3 of their last 4 games. And just like I mentioned earlier, they're now missing their 2 starting safeties, Javon Holland and Deshaun Elliott. Give me the over. He got 14 targets last week. Zach Wilson is doing his job and getting Wilson the ball. I like the over.
All right, Lawrence has had his Bears #1 foam finger. Are you going to still keep riding this, Justin Fields? This is going to be combo, passing yards and rushing yards, 244.5.
Yeah, give me over. He's hit this number in 3 straight games. He's gone over this. He's had at least 45 rushing yards in each of the last 5 games he's played. We've talked about this game a decent amount. Browns really banged up on the defensive front as well. Back-to-back games with 33 or more passing attempts. I definitely like the Bears to cover. I know my friend Lawrence here likes the Bears to win outright, and I certainly think Justin Fields, who the game where I'm so annoyed, right? But I'm in a 16-team league. I'm the #1 team in this league, and the team with the second most points. I'm #1 in record. I'm #1 with most points. But this team that has the second most points, we're the only 2 teams with over 1,900 total points in this league. I have to play this guy because it's just bad scheduling. Somehow he's the 8th seed. He's got Justin Fields, so you know he's going off. This is the league where
That's
he's
how
got,
you know.
This guy has everything going for him. He already got a huge game from Amon-Ra. He stole Amon-Ra from me in the draft. He had 1 pick ahead of me in the draft. He said he got a big game from Amon-Ra. He has Mostert. He's going to go off as well. Everything's sort of fallen into place for him. And I'm trying to decide between Deontay Foreman and Clyde Edwards-Helaire because it's a 16-team game. I have Josh Allen, but he's got Justin Fields. I've lost Mark Andrews in this league. My point is Justin Fields is going to have a monster game because he's playing against me.
So you were
huge game. Give me the over.
That was just Matthew Berry writing his fantasy football obit.
Yeah.
Right here
was.
on FF pregame.
Yeah.
If you had said
annoyed.
this next prop in September, it probably would have been like 16.5 rushing yards. But for Zeke, it's 60.5.
Yeah, I think I want to take the under because of game script, but I think he's just going to get the volume even if they're down. I think they're just going to continue to run the ball, so I'm going to take the over. On Zeke, 60.5, Kansas City do not have a very good rushing defense.
This next one couldn't be any better. Desmond Ritter to my man Lawrence. And I like that a Ritter prop for passing has a 1 as the first digit. 177.5.
You know what else has a 1 in front of it? How many passing yards he's averaged a game, which is 198, right? So his average per game way over this. But the last 2 times he hit this number was Week 14 versus Tampa, bottom 5 pass defense, and Week 8 versus Tampa Bay, bottom 5 pass defense. So I'm gonna go to under here. They'll run it on Carolina. Now he might throw for 150, but I'm sorry, Drake London gonna get like 105 of those. So we solid with London, but Ritter will go under.
So you're saying they're going to run the ball? Well, we got Bijan.
Yeah.
His rush plus receiving prop at 87.5, Matthew.
And I'm going to take the over here. Look, he's averaged at least 19 touches over the last 4 games, playing 73% of the snaps. Great. Finally, Arthur Smith coming to his senses, using his best players as well. And in games in which he sees at least 19 touches, Bijan Robinson averaging over 100 yards from scrimmage. Panthers allow 131 total yards from scrimmage to running backs for the season. So the number's at 87.5. Give me the over for Bijan Robinson. Although, again, that 16-team league that I have Bijan Robinson. I'm telling you, Tyler Allgeier's going to vulture like 2 touchdowns today.
He gonna get that over, though.
He's going to hit
He
the
gonna get that over
on the yards, but it's going to be useless because Tyler Allgeier and Cordell Patterson are going to vulture touchdowns. It's outrageous. It's outrageous what's going to happen. But I've seen this movie. I know how it ends.
You should just be worried.
I've been number 1 in this 16-team league from wire to wire. And can I tell you a crazy stat about this league? The league is.
You don't have a choice.
No, you're correct.
Being held hostage here.
And you might have to pull out that violin right now.
Yeah.
You didn't even lose yet.
I'm gonna. I've wire to wire this league, and this league actually. So it's over to ESPN.
Yep.
And it's League ID 1.
I thought you were a corporate man.
No. It's League ID. Well, we don't. Anyway, it's League ID 1.
Yeah.
Meaning it is the first league that was ever created on ESPN.com. League ID 1, and so it's with a bunch of the guys that created the first, created the fantasy game over at ESPN. So it's League ID 1. It's been in existence since fantasy football was. And I've led wire to wire, 16-team league. I've led wire to wire. I'm going to lose in the
My
first
man
round.
sweating about that matchup right
Because
there.
I've seen this movie. I have the better team, but today with the matchups, this guy's got me. I'm telling you.
We're going to see you in a black veil next week, mourning the season that was on FF pregame. How about this number here? Kyron Williams, his over-under rushing yards, 93.5.
Seems extremely high.
Yeah.
I did call my shot for shot that he'd go for 125, so I feel compelled to take the over.
For the sake of continuity.
Yes. So Washington's pass defense is terrible, so everyone thinks they'll throw the ball. There's a repercussion of that where it means they cannot stack the box because they can't lead their receivers on islands against Puka Nacua.
They traded away their whole D-line.
Yeah, they don't have anyone left. So I think the Rams have a big lead in this one. I think Kyron runs it plenty in the second half and he goes over.
All right, we still on this with Tommy DeVito?
See,
17
I'm not
completions?
I'm not doing that with my hand. I ain't Italian. I just like Italian bread. But I'm gonna go under. Tommy DeVito's only hit this number once in 5 full games, and that was 18 versus the Commanders, which has the worst pass defense. So, and that's not how they want to play. They want to run the ball and run with him too. So, give me the under on that.
All right, Cooper Kupp owners in the playoffs, it feels like we're getting to see the old Cooper Kupp. But his number is 75.5 receiving yards over under.
You had me at Washington. I'm going to take the over. Last 4 weeks, no team in the NFL allows more yards per game to wide receivers than my Washington Commanders. They've allowed at least 76 yards to a wide receiver in 3 of their past 4 games. I think Demarcus Robinson is kind of interesting today if you're desperate. I think Puka Nacua has a big game here, but my little Cooper Kupp, give me the over on 75.5 against Washington.
OBJ receptions. The number's just at 2.5.
Yeah, over. That one's an easy one. Over.
said.
He's one of the most targeted receivers in football when he's on the field. Easy over.
Tony Pollard, I have him in a 14-team PPR league. He's not
No one cares about your fantasy league.
His number for rushing, receiving, 78.5.
It's interesting. That went down a little bit, but CEH has 68 yards against this Bills defense on only 12 touches. Furthermore, Pollard's hit this number in 4 straight games. He's their guy. Like, I'm going over.
Okay. Stephon Diggs, can't believe this number. 68.5 for receiving yards. That's what we've come to?
Yikes.
Yes.
All right, let's on to the next one.
Look, I've been saying
That was your cue.
Oh, was it? I'm not paying attention. Yeah, give me the over. Look, he's been over this number in 8 of 10 games when he has at least 6 or more receptions. He's been over this number in 5 of the 7 games when he has a 30% target share. Now, he's had that number only once in the last 5 games, but as we've talked about, this is a must-win for them. There's even though his brother on the other side won't be playing in this game, the fact of the matter is there is kind of a brotherly rivalry. I think Stephon Diggs is going to want to show up here as well. It'll be interesting to see if Mama Diggs gets the kind of love that Mama Kelsey gets.
Probably not.
Probably not.
You know that ain't
honestly.
happening.
Yeah, exactly. And honestly, it should because, honestly, her 2 kids are just as good, if not better, than the 2 Kelsey boys.
I agree with
But either way, give me the over on 68.5 of Stephon Diggs. I'm in on Diggs having a bounce-back game.
Likewise, yeah.
All right, don't forget, DraftKings Sportsbook this season. New customers bet $5 pocket, $150 in bonus bets instantly, plus all customers get a no-sweat same-game parlay every day. You should trail Matthew's SNF parlays here. Download the app.
saying.
Use the promo code BARRY when you sign up. DraftKings Sportsbook. The crown is yours. Atlanta Falcons' Mac Hollins got his rain boots on. How about that look?
Don't know about that.
All right.
Feels
Wait,
very
we got a
uncomfortable.
barefoot bandit.
You supposed to
cruising
go
in?
for 150 a game doing
That dude's
stuff
gonna
like
have a
this.
monster game. He's going to have a monster game.
Not sure if I'm buying that. Welcome back into FF pregame. How about Jameis Winston? I don't even know how to describe this look. He's got the purple pants, the suitcase. Just
I think that's outstanding.
another day in the life and the Jameis Winston experience
pretty
with
fly.
the Saints.
Looks pretty fly. That's what he looks like.
You
He's
saw that
saying,
with a lot
"Start
of conviction.
me."
So here's the question from our guy Pete. Our
Yeah,
car
this is back-
croucher gonna ruin my season. Hashtag FF pregame.
This is backup producer Pete, the defending champ of our show league, and the answer is yes. You already knew the answer before you tweeted that, Pete. You know that's right.
Yeah.
Derek Carr and Jay Croucher, both underwhelming fantasy options, and yet both will in fact ruin your season today.
I'm just disappointed that Pete got on a plane to New Orleans and maimed Chris Olave out of my lineup because it was the only way he was going to beat me fair and square. My juggernaut built around Nick Mullins, who had a great day yesterday, Josh Palmer, who went off on Thursday night
Yeah.
for 21 points.
Garbage
after
man.
Just a ridiculous
Get how you
79-yard
live.
touchdown that had no relevance to the game whatsoever.
Who's your other quarterback?
Derek Carr.
Yeah, you know what you should do?
What?
Bench Derek Carr for Marcus Mariota that you just picked up.
I just wanted to take him away from other people.
Yeah.
Just have him as a little option, you know, if I
there
want to
you
get a little
go.
spicy.
Fair enough. Fair
I don't
enough.
want to get spicy with Marcus Mariota.
Yeah, no.
Be Derek
Fair
Carr.
enough.
All right, make sure to tweet the show. We're going to throw it on throughout. It's hashtag FF pregame. And now it's going to dive into our rankings. So let's pick it up. Our top 10 quarterback rankings, Matthew.
Yeah, these are them. These are the top 10 quarterbacks that I rank. Look, you see
From
right
1
here.
to 10.
1 to 10. You can count. There's Jordan Love at 7. You see him. Mahomes at 8. Justin Fields at 9. He's going to make me pay for that. But how about Matthew Stafford? My man Lawrence Jackson tells me he's going to have a good game. And you know what my man Lawrence Jackson is right. Rams have the second highest implied team total so far this week since week 10. My Commanders allowing over 24.5 fantasy points per game to opposing quarterbacks. And the last 4 quarterbacks, all of them, have scored at least 19 fantasy points In fact, no team in the NFL has allowed more passing touchdowns in the NFL than my Washington Commanders. I know what you're saying, Wade Barry. That can't be it. You're right. I have more bad stats about the Commanders. 9 of their last 10 opponents, the quarterback's thrown for at least 2 touchdown passes against the Commanders. They're awful. They're brutal. They're terrible. They're going to get destroyed by Matthew Stafford. And the Rams, Stafford is somewhere here on our jersey wall. He's going to go off. I'll figure it out. He's way in the back.
I don't think
But
he's
we had a Stafford.
You do
jersey.
have
Yes,
a number
yes.
9.
We have it Stafford. It's all the way in the very, very back.
Right.
Yeah,
We got to
yeah.
move that up
Tucked
now that you
away,
got him
so
top 10.
He's
No,
in the
no,
Ramondre
you'll see.
Stevenson.
You'll see. You go ahead. Anyways, that's who I'm talking about. Give me a second. You go. Keep talking.
All right.
I'm gonna
I believe
prove
you,
this to
Matthew.
No. I'll prove
said,
you.
"I
Keep
believe
going.
you."
We're going to have Matthew do some
Anyway,
interior
Stafford's a top 6
decorating
play.
here.
They
How
got
about
the-
that camera work to make sure that we got Matthew in the background working
Why
his
we pay
way
Bills
on?
the big bucks.
Keep going.
Okay, Lawrence, your guy in the top 10. Who do you have circled?
Jordan Love here, quarterback 22 against the Giants. There's the
Terrifying
Stafford
visual.
jersey up there.
Get Matthew off the set.
He's there, and that is indeed a Matthew Stafford jersey.
Thank you, Lawrence.
You know,
Some people doubted me.
that was
people
what
doubted
was that?
me.
That was like minus 125
Yeah.
You
that
do
we
the rest
had
of the
it.
show from up there? Don't
Yeah.
fall on the way down. Those
So
steps could be treacherous.
Jordan Love, who is not number 9, he's number 10, but he was quarterback 22 against the Giants in Week 14. That was ugly, but the 4 prior weeks to that, he was a top 5 quarterback in fantasy. We've talked about the Bucs defense a lot already on this show. They allow the 6th most points per game to quarterbacks in fantasy. They allow another number 9, Desmond Ridder, last week to throw for a career high 347 yards. So I really like Jordan Love to bounce back this week.
All right, need to start for QB from Dustin Schaefer. Love, Wilson, or Flacco? I started Love last week. We saw that went. Please help. Hashtag FF pregame.
I got this one. All right, so first off, you're not starting Russell Wilson because he played
Can't do that.
yesterday. He
Zach.
played
Can't
yesterday.
Zach Wilson.
Zach Wilson.
Oh, Zach Wilson.
Come on.
Hey, look, as quickly as I came behind his answer, like I was thinking the same thing. Hey, no disrespect to Zach. We just talk good about Zach, but yeah.
But I just didn't even think that was a real option.
I love the no disrespect
No disrespect.
before the disrespect.
Yeah. Dustin, you're starting Jordan Love. Don't get cute. I know you started him last week. I know that didn't go well. We're back in on Love this week. You're starting Jordan Love. Listen to your boy Matty here. Jordan Love.
Yep, no, I agree.
Yeah.
I think it has to be Love. There's just no upside. There's not nearly as much upside in the other two. And we had a month sample of Love playing at an elite level, and it's a pristine matchup against the Bucks. Might be the best in football.
I just if you go down swinging with Jordan Love, it is what it is. Like, he's one of the reasons why you're in the playoffs. Like, if you bench Jordan Love and he goes off, and like Zach Wilson or Joe Flacco play like we've seen them play in the past, you're gonna feel like such a moron. Like, I would rather go down swinging with Jordan Love.
No brainer. Jordan Love here.
I think Zach Wilson will have a good game today now that Javon Holland's out, but Jordan Love still you go.
Okay. Are you going to keep whispering sweet nothings to me about my Bears? And
I am a little bit, George,
Yeah?
because a couple things. One, I mentioned the Cleveland is just ultra banged up on defense. They get Denzel Ward back, that helps, but they're missing a ton of guys between Delpit and Thornhill, and they're losing linebackers and defensive linemen. And so I think Fields will be able to take advantage against the Cleveland defense, which isn't the unit that it was in the first 6 weeks or so of the season. And then the other thing, too, is that I just can't buy that Joe Flacco is good. No, I just can't buy it. And against this Bears defense, which is the best defense that he'll have played, they're a lot better than the Rams, a lot better than the Jags on D. So I don't think the Flacco is going to be stringing together these like 7-minute drives to keep Fields off the field. And so I think that Fields will have plenty of plays, he'll have plenty of opportunities, he'll be able to connect with DJ Moore. I think he'll have a big day.
At a certain point, the parachute's going to deploy for Joe Flacco. He's going to fall back to reality, and you're going to be like, oh, yeah, that's why this guy was on his couch up until 3 weeks ago, and now he's back in the NFL as an off-the-street starter. He's serviceable. He's not going to maintain these type of fantasy baseline performances where he's 20-plus weeks, week in and week out.
No, he's not. And it's Montez Sweat going up against backup tackles as well to get Joe Flacco. So I think Flacco's been exceedingly competent so far, but I don't think he's going to get the play volume today, and I don't think that he will be as good overall.
I'm going to give a bonus one.
Sure.
Brock Purdy is going to go off against the
Thank
Cardinals.
you, George. From your mouth to God's ears.
No, Purdy will have a huge game.
He's going to have a massive game. I think he's going to now have that next step where he has these statement games next 2 weeks where he becomes the clear-cut MVP front runner, if he's not already there 1A, 1B with Dak Prescott as we dive further down the list, 11 through 20. And I can't fully wrap my arms
Is that what that noise was?
around Tua, but Matthew Berry may disagree with me here at home against the Jets.
Matthew Berry does not disagree with you. Matthew Berry agrees with you. He made my hate list this week. Keep in mind, so did Jared Goff. So, I gotta
Take it with a grain of salt here. 5 touchdowns.
I gotta own that. Gotta own that. But the fact of the matter is that there's nothing like since you think about the last week he played the Jets, right? Week 12, he had 7.8 fantasy points in that game against the Jets, a game in which the Dolphins won. Since week 7, the only quarterback to score double-digit fantasy points against these Jets is Josh Allen, who has obviously a lot more rushing upside than Tua does. Tua has no Tyreek Hill today, and the Jets are a top 5 team in terms of pressure rate. So Tua, who doesn't have one of his big outlets there, is, I think, going to be under pressure quite a bit. The Jets are, I think you could make a very strong argument they are the best defense in the NFL. So even with 8 quarterbacks off the board, Tua still is only QB 14 for me today.
Tyreek out. Should I start Tua or Will Levis at QB? That's Clint Wood-Finwith.
Having said that, because I just talked down Tua, I'm still starting Tua over Will Levis. I get the question because Houston isn't great. Levis looked good, but so much of Levis's production came in comeback mode. In the those last 2 drives, honestly, were like a big part of Levis's production against Miami, and that was a game again. They were down by 2 touchdowns with 5 minutes to go. Insane game. I just don't see it here because I think they're going to be winning. They're favored at home against Houston. I don't think Levis is going to have to throw as much as I've said this. I think it's a big Derrick Henry day. I'm going with Tua Tagovailoa.
Just quickly with Levis, so he was awesome against Atlanta in his first start, which was really 4 deep balls down the field. And then he was awesome against the Dolphins going up against backup safeties in comeback mode. Everything in between was really bad. So I think Levis is going to be good overall, but it has been very hot and cold, and he's been dependent on big plays.
For sure. Bad fantasy-wise, but he had a couple starts where he avoided turnovers. And you look at the totality of the season for him.
Overall, he's
8 touchdowns, 3 picks.
Yep.
He's a rookie. It's It's what rookie quarterbacks do. He's played good in spots, and I actually think his game against the Dolphins was more impressive from a football standpoint than his first start against the Falcons.
All right, we're staying 11 through 20. Matthew, cover your ears. I got Kyler Murray going in one of my leagues. What do we think?
This is one of them where it could go either way. If you look at the quarterbacks against the Niners the past few weeks, Drew Lock was quarterback 17 against them, which for him, that's respectable. Mid-level quarterback 2. Jalen Hurts was quarterback 6 still, and they got blown off, the doors blown off them. But both of these were in garbage time and comeback mode when they're trying to come back. So I got Kyler at quarterback 11 this week because he's got the rushing upside there. And again, San Francisco's allowed almost 250 passing yards in their last 4 games, and a lot of that is because teams are trying to come back. I think he gets back Michael Wilson this week, so we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens there.
This next one,
Yeah.
we're Baker Mayfield.
What? We don't like
Baker
Mayfield on a Sunday morning? What's wrong with you?
Mayfield
It's been a great season.
experience. And where does it land this week for the Bucks?
Well, it may ultimately land at the NFC South, which is incredible, but 6 and 7 Bucks. But they may be the least bad team in that division. I think it's a tough week this week for Baker, though. One, he hurt his ankle against the Colts, and he hasn't been the same guy ever since then. And it looked like a really bad injury. Kyle Trask came in for a little bit, but he's just playing through it. He doesn't seem to be the same guy physically. And then the matchup with the Packers, it's not like the Packers have the Ravens pass defense, but the point is mainly that they have a terrible run defense. Their run defense is just putrid at the moment. The Giants are able to do whatever they wanted on the ground against the Packers. I think Todd Bowles is a pretty conservative coach who loves to run the ball into the line for 2 yards a pop with Rashad White, and I think that's what he'll do today, and Baker won't get many pass attempts.
Yeah, Rashad White, though, he's been...
Rashad White is, talk about a renaissance man. Rashad White, who I think was kind of dismissed, and his rushing prop was frequently in like the low 40s, high 30s. Like, he's really emerged as a top 10 back. Yeah, good for you, Rashad White.
All right, let's get to our running backs. You said conveniently that he's emerged as a top 10 back, and bang, there he is at number 6, Matthew Berry. We got Bubba Bijan one spot ahead of him at 5. At Carolina, though, for how awful the Panthers have been, their defense, though, is fairly stout.
It's stout against the pass. It's not been good against the run. Running backs that see at least 15 touches against Panthers are averaging over 20 fantasy points per game. We talked about the fact that Bijan's gotten at least 19 touches in 4 straight now, and 11 of the 12 running backs to see at least 15 touches against these Carolina Panthers have scored at least 1 touchdown as well. I don't know. Bijan, you see it there as a top 5 play. It feels like they're not getting cute. I will say this. Somebody that I think is very sharp told me they like the Panthers to win today outright. They view that as an upset. I kind of like that call.
I don't think that's crazy at all. What's that, 2.5?
Yeah, I don't think that's crazy at all either. I like the Panthers definitely to cover. Falcons are not good.
There's no one in the NFC South good. The Panthers, they had a chance to beat the Saints. It wasn't nearly as close as the final score showed that it was. They just became what they are, the weakest team in NFC South. But if they don't do that today, they
should have beaten the Bucks the week before that as well. Some fluky plays there, but I agree. And look, Desmond Ridder is liable to lose any single game in the NFL. He has a chance to lose any game that he plays.
He's got that magic ability. Yeah. He really does.
He has to have the most polarizing splits in the NFL. He's actually looked like a serviceable quarterback fantasy-wise at home. On the road, he has been atrocious.
Yeah. And there was a game on the road that they won against the Bucks that they could have lost because he fumbled it 3 times. There is good play in there, but then there's a turnover. And it's just like, come on, like, why you got to do that? You know, so that's kind of, and he did it last game, and they lost.
Yep. I will say with Ridder, you're right. He makes some nice throws. He uses his legs. It's not like Trubisky where there's just nothing. There's absolutely nothing there. There's no upside play. Ridder is really good plays and just really, really bad plays. But he can get lucky and string them together in the right way.
If you're a Falcons fan, would you rather have Heineke or Ridder under center?
I'm not a Falcons fan.
No. I know you're a Washington fan, but you had the Heineke experience for a couple years.
If I was a Falcons fan, I think Heineke gives them a better chance to win. would be my take. But he's legitimately a Falcons fan. Ask Lawrence.
Yeah, it's
Thanks for watching the show.
Well, I know. That's why I was going to you first for the Heineke.
The thing was when they did have Heineke, they were getting the same results. So it's like
it was such a small sample
that's why
size,
they brought
really.
him back. That's why they brought Ritter back. But it's not like it's
Well said. It's like,
yeah,
It is pretty ugly.
running backs.
All right, Zeke.
Zeke, yeah, he good. Zeke is good. Well, he's good to get these 20 touches, and that's what's gonna make him what Matthew has as a top 10 back this week. Matthew, you talked about the KC allowing 100 yards to running backs the last 3 games. They've also allowed a running back to be a top 10 fantasy running back in 4 of their last 6. We just saw it last week with James Cook having his best fantasy day against these Chiefs, and James Cook did that in the receiving game. We saw Ezekiel Elliott get back his receiving chops last week. So just reiterating again that we all like Zeke to eat.
Well, let's have you keep it 11 through 20 then, if you're talking James Cook, because ever since they made that change at offensive coordinator, you've seen how much more of a factor he's been catching the ball out of the backfield.
The thing that's crazy about this is he's only been playing 45% of the snaps in the last 4 games, but in those 4 games, he's been averaging 18 touches for 115 yards. 45 of those are in the receiving game.
Yeah.
So you like that there against Dallas. You just want to see him get the touches. Even though Dallas allows the 4th fewest fantasy points per game to fantasy, if you give him the touches, it'll get done. We saw DeAndre Swift finish his RB 51 against Dallas, but he only had 11 touches. Week before that, Zach Charbonnet was running back 13, 20 touches. Give Cook the touches.
Barrett Boone. With Hill out, I've got Garrett Williams, Ken Walker, or James Cook.
Garrett Wilson, Ken Walker, or James Cook. I'm going to go with Garrett Wilson, actually. I mean, he's somebody that James Cook has been used a lot. He's actually, so to me, it's between Wilson and James Cook. I don't want Ken Walker against the Eagles here. Garrett Wilson has been actually pretty good with Zach Wilson. Game script should work here as well. I want to say the stat off the top of my head is something like at least 17 fantasy points in 4 of the last 5 games that Zach Wilson has played. James Cook has been used quite a bit as well, and I'm facing James Cook, so he will go off. There's no question about that. It's just whether you think Dallas makes it a point to stop them. The Cowboys are the 7th best run defense over the last week.
We'll say with Garrett Wilson, like when someone is gargantuan to the game as Tyreek Hill comes out, you have to think about all the ripple effects. And one thing that I think people don't think about as much is that what does Tyreek Hill do? He gets first downs. That keeps the Dolphins' offense on the field. When someone like him is out, the Dolphins presumably will be on the field less because they don't have a guy who's just catching passes for first downs. So there's more plays available for Garrett Wilson.
But they could also just lean more on their running game.
They could, but that's not great against the New York Jets, who are pretty solid against the run, too.
And the one thing I would bring up with Ken Walker, if Hurts doesn't go Monday night, and that defense hasn't looked great the last 3 or 4 weeks, if the Seahawks somehow had positive game script. But, yeah, I would think James Cook out of that trio would be the way to go for sure. So, as we're at 11 through 20.
You're voting James Cook. Where are you going?
I'm going James Cook narrowly over Wilson, but I think it's a coin flip.
What
do you think, Lawrence?
James Cook.
All right,
I don't mind James Cook, Barrett. Here's what I would say. I think James Cook is by far the floor play. If you're telling me one of these guys totally bottoms out, I think Garrett Wilson has a better shot to bottom out than James Cook. I also think Garrett Wilson's got the better chance at a touchdown.
Garrett Wilson's got the highest ceiling. Dolphins don't have any safeties, is the other thing, too.
Yeah, that too.
So, anyway, I think I might go Garrett Wilson, but I get the thing with James Cook, and I think it's a coin flip, but I definitely agree it's not Ken Walker.
So if Zeke is one to eat, then I think Derrick Henry in his career against the Houston Texans has feasted, gorged, whatever you want to call it, with the 200-yard plus games that he has racked up. He somehow falls in that 11 through 20 category this week. What are your expectations for him?
Listen, he was my shot for shot. 3 straight games of multiple rushing touchdowns. His last 5 games against Houston, he's averaging over 100 yards from scrimmage. He's got a couple of games. So, yeah, I think Henry, he's my running back 12 today. Start Derrick Henry. Don't get cute.
all over that one. Travis Etienne, who's had some injury concerns, has been limited the last few weeks, then suits up. Hasn't seen a heavy touch load, though.
No, he had an awesome start to the season. It's kind of tailed off recently. And the Ravens, quietly, they don't have an amazing rushing defense. It's just no one gets the chance to run the ball because they're always losing in the second half. I think the Jags are going to be losing in the second half. So I think that's a concern for Etienne tonight.
Well, and the Ravens had that stretch, first 11, 12 weeks. They had the lead going into the fourth quarter. So every week, opponents have had a negative game script going into the last 15 minutes. 21 through 30. Here's where we get a little interesting, and we got an eye on the Chiefs' backfield here, Matthew.
Yeah, over the last 4 weeks, it's a tough matchup here. Over the last 4 weeks, New England is allowing just 11.3 fantasy points per game to opposing running backs. They've given up just 42 rushing yards a game and 2.4 yards per carry to opposing running backs. Among the running backs that have scored less than 8 fantasy points, Saquon Barkley, Austin Eckler, the combination of Najee Harris and Jalen Warren against this Patriots defense. They're so strong, and so Edwards-Helaire, who's going to split time with Jerick McKinnon in this one, he comes in at just 20, running back 23 here today.
Yep. I'll just say quickly on Jerome Ford. He has a super difficult matchup against the Bears defense. I think the Bears rush defense is one of the top 2-3 units in the NFL. A bit more suspect about their pass defense. I think that might get exposed when they play better teams. Although they don't really play better teams the rest of the season. But this is a tough matchup for Jerome Ford. So if you have a close alternative, I would probably go that way.
But if you look at the Bears' pass defense, first 6-7 weeks of the season, it was bottom, 3 or 4 in the NFL?
Yep. Oh, yeah.
Since getting Montez Sweat, top 10 unit. It's amazing.
Montez Sweat isn't Myles Garrett. I get that he's really good, but I
No,
don't
it's just
trust
that they haven't had anybody rushing the passers so long that
They had
when
the
you
4 of
get
us rushing the passers the first
get
half of the
Montez
season.
Sweat, he looked like Bruce Smith or Reggie White or something.
Yeah. They've also been playing like Bryce Young and then Josh Dobbs, and they've been beating bad offenses, but I agree, they are a much better pass defense than they were.
Okay, we know Derrick Henry's, if they have positive game script, is just going to be fed the ball. What do you think of Tajay Spears as well?
And that's what'll make it interesting to see what he does here, because in that negative game script against the Dolphins, he played on 66% of the snaps to Derrick Henry's 48 while coming back. He had 6 catches for 89 yards. He was running back 13. This was his second straight game to play at least 65% of the snaps. So he is playing more as of late. Houston's allowed an average of 5 receptions for 46 receiving yards in their last 3 games to running backs. So that's where Tajay Spears will fall in. But the question will be, will they even need that playing against this banged-up Texans team?
And it's such a roll of the dice if he's going to get a touchdown, because you see Henry basically come in if they're at the 10 or the 15.
Yeah, and he's getting that touchdown.
Correct. And for Spears, it would have to be a reception out of the backfield inside basically the 30 or 20 even for him to have that chance, because last week was the perfect snapshot of Henry getting the wildcat from the 4 and then the other carry from the 1. Spin it over to wide receivers now, and we're going to kick it off with our top 10. And Matthew, you did find the jersey.
Thank you.
Stafford buried all the way in the back. The Cooper Kupp one, a little easier for our viewers to see, and he cracks the top 5.
Yeah, we've talked about this matchup a lot all week and today. My Commanders are brutal. They allow the most yards per game to wide receivers over the last 4 weeks, right? They allow the second most fantasy points per game to wide receivers. In their last 2 games, Washington has allowed 4 touchdowns to the slot. Again, the last 2 games, 4 touchdowns to the slot. Now, I don't want to blow your guys' mind, but that's 2 touchdowns per game. Literally just did that math in my head. So here's Cooper Kupp, who's a slot receiver, Jay Croucher. He should have a big game. You see number 10 back there on the wall as well. Never doubt me. Never doubt me on my jersey, jersey acumen, George.
I love the deep dive going through the cobwebs to unearth that Matthew Stafford jersey.
Yeah.
For the Eagles. And
wide receiver 5 for me, Cooper Kupp.
How much of this do you think will be dependent on if Jalen Hurts is playing for the Eagles or not, with what we have with A.J. Brown?
Yeah, with A.J. Brown, I think it's hugely dependent on whether Jalen Hurts goes. Jalen Hurts is just the connection that he has formed with A.J. Brown over the past 2 seasons that led to A.J. Brown, that ridiculous 125-plus receiving yards streak earlier in the season. Now, if it is Marcus Mariota, I said you're starting A.J. Brown no matter who the quarterback is, just because that offense, it's just got it. It's Devontae Smith and it's A.J. Brown against the Seattle pass defense that has been a bit more vulnerable lately, but certainly A.J. Brown takes a big hit if Jalen Hurts.
And they might not have Devin Witherspoon either.
Yep.
He's been balling as a rookie corner. Also, Seattle's allowed a touchdown to a receiver in 7 straight games. So we're talking like it's going to be Jalen Hurts. So that's what you got there.
Yep.
But if it's not, like Jay said, you still start him, but you definitely praying to the fantasy guys.
And obviously it was a different backup quarterback last year, but you had those couple spot starts for Gardner Minshew, and that offense really didn't skip a beat.
Certainly in the Dallas game they played,
Yeah.
that was awesome, the offense, and they struggled a bit against the Saints, but the Saints had a really good defense. So look, you're starting A.J. Brown no matter what. You're starting Devontae Smith no matter what, and Dallas got it too, I think.
Yep.
Okay, 1 through 10. DK Metcalf, man, did he ball out a couple weeks ago. And then it seems like it's been boom or bust for DK, depending on the week and depending if it's Drew Lock spinning it or Geno Smith.
Yeah, and look, I think that Locke showed enough against San Francisco. Like, that wasn't a Trubisky type of performance. He was moving around. He was competent.
I love that that's the...
I'm sorry, but Mitch was so bad yesterday. It was unbelievable.
I lived it as a Bears fan, and now I feel the Steelers fans' pain.
It's just first read, not open, scramble.
Yeah.
But you're not good at scrambling. So,
Yeah.
anyway, Drew Lock, I think, will provide enough competence where DK Metcalf, you're going to be starting him no matter what. Against the Eagles' pass defense, it's missing Darius Slay. Zach Cunningham, best coverage linebacker, he is out as well. And they've not been very good this season in pass coverage.
Okay, so we've
It's
gone...
a very nice way to say that.
Yeah. Well, they've been
not
bottom
been very
2
good
lately.
They have not.
He's so eloquent. Renaissance.
Renaissance. He is very
Jake
eloquent.
Croucher.
Very
That's what they
eloquent.
teach us in
My phone's
Australia.
blowing up, by the way, just so you know. Apologies, all the Tyreek Hill stuff. So I'm multitasking. This is what it looks like on the set.
We got DK Metcalf on one side.
Some of them are
Obviously,
NBC employees. Literally, I swear to God, some people, literally fellow NBC employees are among the ones texting me.
diversionary tactics, just so Jay has the waiver wire unfettered here, so
Probably.
you're distracted.
Probably. Everyone's conspiring against me.
But so we got DK Metcalf, 11 through 20 now. Tyler Lockett on the other side. Last week, 6 catches for 89 yards. What are we thinking against Philly?
Listen, they've allowed at least 16 fantasy points to a wide receiver in every single game this season. The Eagles have. They've allowed multiple touchdowns to wide receivers in 5 of the last 6. So Tyler Lockett, by the way, news just came out while we're talking about that. Apparently, Matt Patricia is going to be calling the defensive plays for the Philadelphia Eagles. Jalen Hurts may not play in this game. He might be less than 100%. So maybe the game script's a little bit closer. Whether it's Drew Lock or Geno Smith under center, I think Tyler Lockett is a top 20 play on Monday night.
Better than him calling the offensive plays for the Philadelphia
Nowhere to
Eagles,
go but up.
Can rest easy.
Nowhere to go but up.
Okay, you were raving about the potential slot performance.
That's per Jay Glazer, by the way. I should say that Sean Desai being replaced as the play caller by Matt Patricia. That's per Jay Glazer.
You were raving about Cooper Kupp in
Yep.
the slot. Is that going to cannibalize Puka Nacua? Save that thought. We got this from Leonard Kowalski, Achan, Lockett, or Zay Flowers at Flex. Hashtag FF pregame. Thanks.
I'm still going Achan. I get it. I like all of them, but I feel like, again, with Tyreek Hill out, I think they lean on the run game here. Just the upside of Achan to me. If you went Lockett, I would get it, but I'm just going with Achan.
Yep. Also, just as a receiver, in a way to replace some of Hill's production.
Yep.
I guess if you're going most upside, then Achan worth the risk because he can just go off and potentially single-handedly win you a week with what we've seen. So back to Puka Nacua. It seems like it alternates. It's either a Cooper Kupp week or a Puka Nacua week.
Yep. Ultimately, there's enough volume for both of these guys, but it was probably a concern for Puka's upside value and projection going forward that Cooper Kupp looked all the way back last week, the 21 Cooper Kupp, and you'd rather Kupp over Nacua going forward.
For sure.
Okay. We just saw Zay Flowers there. OBJ or Zay Flowers, Lawrence?
Yeah, I mean, both of them. You saw Matthew have him at 19 and 20. Flowers has been wide receiver 14 points per game basis the last 4 weeks. Beckham, wide receiver 26. And again, they're going against the second worst pass defense for the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Okay, 21 through 30. We're going to go rapid fire here now. Packers, Jaden Reed has been taken off. Is that continuing?
Yeah, 2 of the last 3 games, he's had multiple rush attempts and a 26% target share. Buccaneers allow the 3rd most yards to wide receivers this season. No Christian Watson. Give me Jaden Reed as a top 22 option today.
Amari Cooper against the Bears. What do we got, Jay?
Yeah, I'd be a little bit worried about Cooper just with the Jalen Johnson matchup, and I think that
He's been
Flacco,
balling out.
yeah, regression is coming from Mr. Flacco.
Okay. Terry McLaurin, I still have PTSD after that goose egg.
Yeah, we know he put up all them zeros, but he's still been averaging 8.5 targets the past 4 games, and Sam Howell said he going to get the ball to the man. High-scoring game on tap. Let's go.
Okay, we're going to wind it down with tight ends 1 through 20. Let's start with the top 10. Isaiah Likely been filling in nicely for Andrews ever since he's been out.
I see what you did there. Back-to-back games now with 6 or more targets. He's had a 17% target share in both games since Andrews went down. Over the last 2 games, 11 of his 13 targets have come from the slot. Why does that matter? Because the Jags have allowed a touchdown to the slot in 3 of their past 4 games. Isaiah Likely is a top 8 play for me today.
Saw this on Entertainment Tonight. They were explaining why Travis Kelce didn't go to Taylor Swift's birthday on Thursday. Oh, yeah, it's because he has a game on Sunday. And, yeah, you can't really skip practice Thursday and Friday. Kelce in the top spot in the rankings at New England.
A little bit of concern about Travis Kelce after he had that game against Philadelphia where his 44 receiving yards just didn't look healthy. He's all the way back, 80-plus receiving yards in the past 3 games.
Yep.
Okay, Dalton Kincaid, and we also have Dawson Knox.
Dawson Knox is back, and he caught 3 passes for 36 yards, but Kincaid still had the 8 targets. He still plays 78% of the snaps. That's as much as Stephon Diggs is playing, so he in there. Like, he's solid.
People have been stashing and hoarding and waiting for Darren Waller and Tommy DeVito. We got Waller at 11. You feeling comfortable at the Saints?
Comfortable is a strong word. The answer is no. Look, Waller may not play all the snaps. They've said he may be limited as well. And when he's seen fewer than 8 targets, he's averaging just 5.5 fantasy points per game. So you've got a guy that needs volume who's probably not going to get volume. We just don't know what the connection will be like between him and Tommy DeVito against the Saints squad. So it's not a bad matchup, but fantasy playoffs on the line, unless I was desperate, I'd like to want to see it for a week before I was putting him right back into my lineup.
1 spot behind him, Cole Kmet, very touchdown dependent.
Yeah, and he hasn't gotten that in his last 2 games, but he's still been able to get double-digit fantasy points in those. So you got to be really strapped, but Justin Fields does like him.
So you're saying he's due?
He might be due.
Oh, Kyle Pitts! Here we go,
He
Jay.
might be due.
Sell me on Kyle Pitts.
Benching Kyle Pitts if possible. Tough matchup against Carolina. I think they will be the Falcons will be leaning on the run against the worst run defense in the NFL.
All right, you ready for me to sell this, Matthew?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay. Sunday Night Football. Lamar Jackson and the AFC leading Ravens head to Duval County to face Trevor Lawrence and the Swagwars, the Jacksonville Jaguars team fighting for their own division crown Sunday, 7 Eastern on NBC and Peacock.
There you go.
Very
There you
flirty.
go.
Yeah.
Very good.
Yeah. You should bring that clip when you have to meet with Sam Flood.
All right, welcome back to FF Pregame. Get your weekday started with Bet the Edge. Join Jay and Drew Dinsick as they tackle the biggest games from every angle in the NFL, NBA, and more. So whether you're targeting spreads and totals, looking for value in futures markets, or circling player props, Jay and Drew have you covered. New episodes, and I know Matthew Berry is getting up at 6 a.m. Eastern Time.
Oh yeah.
Glad to hear it.
Yeah, I bring it in the shower with me. I just like. I like how you snoozed your way through that promo like it was a Sunday Night Football game. Nice job, George. That was great.
And a very nice transition
Yeah.
to Matthew's shower habits with beer goggles.
Sure.
And
1,000%. Cleanliness is next to godliness.
People don't realize this, but Matthew actually wears goggles in the shower.
I do.
really? Any shower
Buffalo, New
beers?
York.
We'll save that topic
100%.
maybe. Okay, so remember, the scale is 1 to 5 beers here.
Yeah.
What would it take for you to start these players?
Yeah. How drunk do I need to be?
Yeah. Okay.
How good do I need to feel?
All right. How loosey goosey you getting with Jerome Ford?
2 beers. I'd want 2 beers. Starting to get a little loose. F it. Whatever. What do we do? Here's the positives on Jerome Ford, right? Double-digit fantasy points in 6 straight games. He's had at least 5 or more targets in 3 of the past 4. We talked about this Bears defense and how well they get after the quarterback. The unmobile Joe Flacco, who's never scared to sort of dump it off to his running backs. And here's what's great. No team in the NFL has allowed more receiving yards to opposing running backs than the Chicago Bears. So Jerome Ford, the only negative to him is you've got Kareem Hunt there. Every once in a while you see a little bit of Pierre Strong. Bears defense, it's a tough matchup here. But yeah, he's my running back 21. I say 2 beers. Feeling good, but I don't need to be super drunk. You know, for me, 2 beers is like, whatever. All right, good. Now I'm just, now I'm talking, now I'm friendly. At 2 beers, I'm friendly because I'm not a particularly friendly guy.
Yes.
I don't like people.
You hide it well.
Thank you very much. I don't think I hide it well at all. I think I'm very blatant about it, but very obvious about it. But yeah, 2 beers.
Okay. We're
That's why
sticking
Jay and I get along because we just sort of
we're
sit
not.
next to each other, not talking.
Yeah.
Right,
near each other, but not
Yeah.
next
Yeah,
to
we
each other.
enjoy each other's company, but not actually speaking to anyone.
So this for Bears Browns, Jay, Amari Cooper.
2 beers for Amari Cooper. Difficult matchup. Jalen Johnson just spoke about that. At the same time, they have such a good run defense. I think they will need to be throwing. The Browns, Joe Flacco has been throwing a ton, and Amari Cooper's still wide receiver 1 for him.
Okay, we got this Bears running back trio. Deontay Foreman now seems to be the lead horse. How many beers for you, Lawrence?
I would say 3. It is a trio, but it's one that Foreman is leading. He played 55% of the snaps to Johnson's 28 and Herbert's 17. Johnson and Herbert only combined for 4 touches last week. It is a tough matchup against the Cleveland defense overall, but I would say about 3 beers. If they get by the goal line, it's all Foreman.
Okay. I feel that. Atlanta at Carolina, and Matthew Berry throwing out there and manifesting the Panthers may double their win total this season.
I want just 1 beer for Chuba Hubbard, who's getting just a massive workload. He's had 3 straight games now with 90 total yards. He's had back-to-back games with 25 touches. And 76% of the snaps last week, which tied a season high. I do think they keep it close against Atlanta. I know it's not a great matchup. Falcons, decent defensively, but just massive workload in a game that should be close between the Panthers and the Falcons. This game's in Carolina. Running back 17 for me, 1 beer. Chuba Hubbard.
All right,
That's all I
Thielen.
need, 1 beer.
Thielen first 6 weeks was electric. In the last 7 weeks, dud. You feeling this week?
I think 3 beers for Adam Thielen, and I am comforted somewhat by the fact that he did start to turn it around last week, and then also
70+ receiving yards.
Yeah, I think and he also he has a favorable matchup in this one. Certainly, rather throw on the Falcons than rather throw on them than run on them.
And you also have Bryce Young.
Well, you also have Bryce Young.
We
That's a
went
problem.
13 for 36 last
That's a problem in
week.
the first 6 weeks too.
That's why the 3 beers will help at least warm you up a little bit when you realize what you're actually going to have to watch with that. How about Drake London? Monster game last week, Lawrence.
I only need 1 beer to start Drake London.
Okay.
Average 15 fantasy points his last 3 games, 7.5 targets in that span. Again, Desmond Ridder could throw for 166. Drake London will get 91 of those, and I'll be content with that.
Houston at Tennessee, and we got Matthews running total right now. You're kind of taking it easy. Only 3 total beers throughout.
Well, I'm going to double that right now. I want 3 beers plus a shot for Devin Singletary as well. And also, I'd probably one of the waitresses that have those Jello things. Like I shove that in my mouth right
She's
here
got the
as well.
whistle too to blow it.
Yeah,
and then you
exactly,
just-
something like that. Because since Dameon Pierce returned, Devin Singletary is averaging under 12 touches a game. Prior to Week 14, this Titans defense was averaging just 2.7 yards per carry to opposing running backs of their previous 4 games. So it's a tough defense. Games in Tennessee and games in which Devin Single does not score a touchdown this year. He's averaging under 6 fantasy points per game. So I'd want to be pretty blitzed to start Devin Singletary. He's merely my running back 25. Again, with 8 teams out of my rankings, he's still merely a questionable flex. 3 beers a shot and some Jello into my mouth.
And
there
then
for
we're
Devin
taking
Singletary.
we're taking the keys right there,
Yeah.
so you'll be feeling nice and good.
Yeah, no, 100%. That's why I bring Jay. Jay's the designated driver.
Responsible play.
He was until Noah Brown exploded that one week with all the injuries. Are we seeing that again? How many beers?
3 beers for me with Noah Brown, and I get it. It's a tough situation. Case Keenum at quarterback. At the same time, one of these guys, whether it's Noah Brown, Dalton Schultz, Robert Woods, John Mechie, someone is going off in this game and is going to have a really good game, and Noah Brown is the best bet to do it because he's the best receiver on the team. So I feel okay starting Noah Brown, albeit not super confident.
Okay, 3 beers. We're going to go around the horn now to Lawrence with Tajay Spears.
Well, I'm going to go 2 beers. So that means I feel a little bit better starting him than those guys. Again, 2 straight games where he played more than 65% of the snaps there. You like that he got running back 13 last week, but you just like to see it in a normal game script, which is the word. So, but I'll take 2 beers to start Tajay Spears.
I feel like he's going to give you a good middle ground, or at least a 6 to 10 point range.
Yeah, a little something.
A little sprinkle in. Commanders at Rams, and Matthew, you've really sold this Ron Rivera defense for Washington.
Yeah, it's not good.
But on the offensive side, Antonio Gibson now going to have a much bigger role with Brian Robinson out. How many beers do you need?
Yeah, and game script should be in his favor as well because he's the passing down back, and they should be trailing in this game where they're underdogs by almost a touchdown to the Rams, and I think it should be more. When he's seen at least 10 touches over the past 2 seasons, he's averaging almost 13 fantasy points per game. Every game in which he's played at least 48% of the snaps, again, we expect him to play at least that today, he's gotten at least 5 targets as well. So Antonio Gibson, my running back 20, just 1 beer. I would need just 1 beer to start Antonio Gibson today.
I can't even bring up this next name after I picked him up for $50 of Fab, and he went goose egg last time. Terry McLaurin.
It's been
How
a
many brewskis?
Scary season for Scary Terry.
No
3
touchdown,
brewskis.
it's 2 touchdowns.
Well, it's not great.
You're
Not
going to
sure
have
how
more
much of
beers
this-
than he's had touchdowns this.
It hasn't been good for Scary, but 3 beers today. I think at some point that just the talent has to emerge. He's still the most talented guy on that offense. I think after the goose egg last week, as we spoke about, they will have gone out of their way in the bye week to emphasize him in the game plan.
It's like that relationship. No, he can change.
Yeah.
Just give him time.
He can. I believe in you, Terry.
It's bound to happen.
Believe in you.
It's only going to be in the fantasy football playoffs when I need it the most, and I'm sweating out the 3 beers. Sam Howell, and you look at his numbers as a fantasy quarterback, consistently we've gotten production.
Right.
Real life quarterback has been all over the place.
Yeah, well, this is a fantasy show, luckily, and I'm going to need 2 beers. I would say 1, but them getting blown out by the Dolphins in Week 13 and them still not, getting fantasy points is a little bit of a worry. But here against the Rams with a 50.5 game total, they're 6.5 point favorites, so that implies that they're not going to get completely blown out the water. And it's a Sam Howell who leads the league in passing attempts by a lot. Just 2 beers.
It's not his actual name, though. You know that, right?
What's it, Samuel Howell Jackson?
No, it's a future Hall of Famer, Sam Howell. Come on.
Yes,
How long you been on this
which
show?
Hall of Fame?
So
Gosh.
we total it up, and this might be a first. And I know, you got kids in college, so you got 7 beers, 1 shot, and 1 Jello shot.
Yeah.
You've clearly spent a lot of time in Tuscaloosa. So now, great
They like-
transition. We got
They like their drink in Tuscaloosa. There's no question.
We got a good buzz. Maybe you
Feeling
feeling a little toasty. Pickup lines presented by DraftKings.
Hey,
So,
sailors.
I'd say that.
start batting those eyes now at Matthew. Lawrence, sell Matthew on your best pickup line.
It's short and sweet and simple here. I like the alt lines.
You do.
Lamar Jackson, 225 passing yards. versus one of the worst passing defenses in football at plus 115. Jacksonville's allowed 300 passing yards in 3 straight games. One of them Joe Flacco, one of them Jake Brown, and the other C.J. Stroud. You like Lamar more than all of those. Lamar himself has been averaging 253 passing yards in his last 3 with a 6-to-1 touchdown to INT ratio. This Ravens offense is getting it going. So all we need is 225 measly little passing yards. There you have it. There's my fantasy
At
football
plus
heart.
money. I like that. All right, I'm thinking about it.
Okay,
Thinking about that hard.
My one, Patrick Mahomes.
I've
Heard of him? Good quarterback. Taking him over 256.5 passing yards. This is insanely low. This should be 30 yards higher. Last year, he was routinely set at like 315.5. And what the Patriots, what they do really well, they take away your number 1 wide receiver. Great, Kansas City don't have one. Like Rashid Rice, take away him, that's fine. We'll find someone else. Mahomes works through everyone else. I think that he will, against a Patriots defense that is elite against the run and struggles more against the pass, I think Mahomes is going to have to throw. He will. He goes over 256.5.
I like both those bets. I'm going with Lawrence at plus money. Honestly, Lamar Jackson's been the better quarterback the last couple of weeks as well, and I like the matchup better against Jacksonville on Sunday Night Football on Peacock and NBC. I'm a company man than I do against the Patriots, who just they're bad. I mean, like he should throw for 350 yards, but can they catch 350 yards?
Hey, they actually, and that was plus 115. It's
Plus
now
115.
plus 105 now. So.
Oh, after you just gave it out, you're moving markets here, Lawrence.
Yeah, see? Hey,
Still plus money.
Still plus, you know.
So I'm going home with Lawrence, but keep your phone on.
I always do,
might ask you
Matthew. I always
to
do.
roll through late at night.
All right, we found the world's greatest Angry Runs fan. How about send this to Kyle Brandt?
Okay, there you go. There you go. Look at that. DK and somebody who does not look like DK.
All right, bringing it home here on FF Pregame. George Savaricas, Jay Croucher, Lamar Jackson, Matthew Berry, and we're taking Lawrence Jackson, pardon me. Big Lamar Jackson guy. I had that on the mind because of how he was able to take Matthew home with that pickup line. So this from 97.3 The Game. Packers head coach Matt LaFleur just now said to Wayne Larrivee, who's their longtime radio play-by-play guy, Aaron Jones is going to be a situation where I have to monitor throughout the game. I wouldn't expect him to get his normal workload. Mentioned if he could give us 15 to 20 plays, that would be great. That's a huge pivot from what we were anticipating.
Sure. Now, A.J. Dillon is inactive, but still, I expect this to be more of a passing game. I think Jones is a high-end flex, low-end RB2, and I would be, I wouldn't bench him unless I had an option that I felt good about, but just lower expectations for Aaron Jones. And if you did have a decent option of your coin flip, I might lean to somebody other than Jones.
I don't think we gave you enough love on the Bar Trivia standings there.
Definitely not.
Matthew, 91, 54, and
Unbelievable.
5.
Yeah.
Massive lead over Lawrence and Jay. I won't even do you the disservice.
It's a much closer race between second and third than it is.
A lesser man would say Jay is 80, 65, and 5, but I am no such lesser man.
Don't
I
worry,
wouldn't do
Jay.
that.
I don't feel good about my record beating you, but
glad.
I don't like.
glad
I
you
should
don't
be
feel that.
winning. This guy winning, and it ain't close.
All right, we got
Anyhow.
2 minutes.
2 minutes. We got to do
Tomorrow's
this quickly.
trivia today, we're running down. Who had more receiving yards, Amari Cooper or DJ Moore?
DJ Moore.
DJ Moore.
More
Who had more pass yards, Jordan Love or Baker Mayfield?
love.
Jordan Love.
Yeah, you got to go Love there. Did Derrick Henry rush for 100-plus yards against Houston for the 6th straight time?
Yes,
Yep.
obviously. That was my
No.
shot for shot.
No!
I'll say yeah.
Yeah, I would
That's
say
like
yes,
70.
100%. Who had more total yards, Raheem Mostert or Breece Hall?
Brees Hall.
Raheem Mostert.
Brees Hall.
Who had more fantasy points, Zeke Elliott or Travis Kelce?
Zeke.
Ooh,
Zeke.
Believe it or not, I say Zeke too.
wow, Zeke around the horn. Who had more total yards, Alvin Kamara or Saquon Barkley?
I'll say Saquon.
Kamara.
Saquon.
Yeah, I think Kamara could be in for a heavy workload with Olave out for sure. Who had more receiving yards, Drake London or Adam Thielen? That doesn't count. as
Drake
an answer.
London.
Give me London.
Thielen.
Okay. Who scored more fantasy points, Kyron Williams or Cooper Kupp?
Kyron Williams.
Kyron Williams.
A little Cooper Kupp.
Okay, bad choice.
Yeah. Why not?
Who had more receiving yards, George Kittle or Trey McBride's look good with
I'm going to say Trey McBride.
McBride.
Kittle.
Who scored more fantasy points? I'm liking this one. This is juicy. Josh Allen or Dak Prescott?
I'm going with FantasyLife.com investor Josh Allen.
Josh Allen.
I'm going with quarterback Dak Prescott.
That is a true company man, giving his investors shout-outs. Who had more receptions, Zay Flowers or Zay Jones?
Say Flowers.
Zay Jones.
Flowers.
Okay, we got
There you go.
15 seconds to go,
All right.
boys.
Hey, it's closing time. You don't have to go home, but you can't stay here. For Lawrence Jackson, Jay Croucher, and George Savaricas, I am Matthew Berry. Peace out. Did I get your name right at all?
Close.
Sort of.
I call him Lamar Jackson, so we're good.
Fine. Peace out.
That was sweet.
How do I just?